with their Jaguar, which so towards the end of its development, they're going to move on to another model next year, the Fry team. 6 was competitive then, early stages.
Turned out, actually, these cars.
Yeah.
Into the pits for a normal stop. Everything seemingly going well and the car quite competitive. And as the balloon went up, his luck went down.
Yeah.
As we shall see as we look further into what happened during the first part of this fascinating 24-hour race in Spa in 2016.
Ultra competitive cars are there. See the McLaren with Ledigar at the wheel, I think at that time, well up to speed then. And all three McLarens been absolutely catastrophic race for them. And remember, of course, that car we just saw a moment ago from onboard, the car that is going out of the pits there, is leading the Blancpain Endurance Championship coming into this race. Number 30, Parker Bentley, was run into the fence, soon sorted out, and problems for the Boots and BMW, the Pro-Am car, that had to go back into the pits with damage that needed repairing.
Yes, the Bentley seemed to understeer himself into trouble, and certainly trouble also arrived when, as a result of the accident that you saw earlier on, the Armco required a lot of work to actually sort it out.
Certainly did, so had a lot of running under the yellow, but finally it was all green for go again. Everybody got back into the programme, although down the Audi pit they were pretty relaxed by everything.
The Jaguar was very happy to be getting somewhere, but it didn't get anywhere really for very long. A kerfuffle and a collision saw damage to the Jaguar, which allowed it in fact to come back but pay little or no further part in the race, and damage also to 28 because that had a serious damage at the rear end and took a lot of time to rebuild.
Yeah, Rennie Rast's car with Lawrence Van Thor, and they're still working their way back up the field. Smoking tyres.
Smoking fireworks.
Smoking
They're
fireworks.
always going to excitement, with one or two of the teams already showing a little bit of fatigue.
And round the back of the garage, some smoking Belgians too. Lamborghini not completely out of the hunt. The Grasser car there into the gravel, but let's not totally discount them. They could still do a job here.
He was fascinated by the sand, that's what it was.
Another rotating Bentley. So Parker team having a bit of a torrid time here. And the BMW always there or thereabout with both of the cars. And Alexander Sims, who we just spoke to a few minutes ago, there he was getting out in the middle of the night, and it was looking pretty good for row racing. Alexander Sims got a round of applause. Again, yellow flags fly, everybody down to near walking pace as the 24 car was loaded onto a flatbed. Behind the pace car once more. And it was still just anybody's game at this point. Teams were starting to do their disc brake changes. They mainly just do it on the front.
Part of the new regulations was that everybody had to have a 5-minute stop. The idea being to even up things a little bit, where the bigger teams that had got facilities couldn't take over and on time alone make, shall we say, hay while the sun shone. So basically the idea was that the smaller teams had the ability to do what servicing they required in that 5 minutes, and thereby the bigger ones couldn't get any great advantage.
75 tapped into a spin, perfectly caught by our onboard camera, and then the one car back into the pits. So that meant the real front end of the Audi Challenge was coming from the number 6 machine, and Frank Stippler at the wheel of that car. That O2 car has since retired from the race. Bentleys most certainly haven't, and that is the Andy Soucek example, currently in second place. Well, the odd catnaps down at Bentley, meanwhile. As we make a pit stop, and Guy Smith there climbing aboard a front engine Continental. So a disc change for this BMW of Rowe Racing, running the two front running BMWs. A little bit of bodywork hanging off that car as we progress through the night, and well, very few incidents really, Neville, although there was a bit of rally crossing going on, as you can see from here, and this a bit of a wild old ride.
And this one actually didn't see anything overt wrong with the car, but we had a feeling there was some damage underneath.
Well, that one is now retired in the pits, I think you'll find.
Yeah.
But a relatively calm night, really, compared with some that we've had in the Spa 24 Hours.
Everything went well, in fact, until we had one car dump the entire contents of his sump on the track just by the bus stop, causing Lido to spin, other people to miss him, and the necessity of putting out the yellow flag while onto the oil was pumped a great deal of dust, cement dust, to soak up the oil and make life a lot easier for the competitors. We're really finding things very, very difficult. So once again, it took a while before we could get back to racing speeds again, but once we did, it was getting to be just what we thought it would be. A battle not between just one, not just two, but about 4 different marks. And that's the way it's been throughout the rest of the race, with us now up to and past the halfway stage.
Famous race strategist Linda Gage there. And then another full course at the Moon.
Her advice and her assistance has proven to be already very valuable indeed for Bentley, who must be looking forward to their development program, which is going to see another car in the not too distant future take them to further success.
When Linda joined the team, it was announced she was joining the team, people were suggesting, are they coming back to Le Mans with a prototype? I don't think that's what the program is. They're racing a car. You can buy a Bentley Continental, and you can buy some very good GT versions of it too. So that's some of the highlights of the total 24 hours of Spa thus far. Here is the classification then. See how quickly we can get it done, Nev. I'm going to try, and you tried to do it last time. There we are in the lead, the number 6 Audi from the Bentley, and then the BMW of Rowe Racing, Lamborghini Grasser team, the Mercedes AMGs in 84 and 57 in 5th and 6th places, and the BMW, second BMW of Rowe Racing 98, the AF Corsa Ferrari, best Ferrari, then the number 9 Santiloc Racing from France in 9th place, then Bentley number 7 dropped to 10th at the moment, in 11th place the Mercedes-Benz of the Polycan team, and then the 12 WRT team, but the Top Gun Van der Zande in that car. In 13th place the HTP team, Mercedes-Benz, and 2 Audis, one from WRT and one from ISR. Then there's the best of the Porsches, the Narak car from IMSA Performance, then the next to the ISR Audis, then the Mercedes-Benz 00 car, that's the yellow one from Black Falcon, then the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini, it's been up and down the grid a bit, then the other Polycan Mercedes-Benz, and then the Ferrari of Kessel Racing with Piccini in it amongst others, then the Cameron Scott Griffin Ragazzi car going very well, Tempto Racing Lamborghini, and the Scuderia Praha Ferrari 488. That's the first 24 for you. In 25th place, the Conrad Motorsport from Germany, 25 car, Christopher Zöckling amongst the drivers. Albuquerque, very disappointing day for Felipe, he's 26th. 27th place, Minshaw, Keane, Gowan and Osborne, all British line up there. In 28th place, the Nissan Academy, that's the best of their cars. Talked to Lucas Adonier earlier in the broadcast. Then the Garage 59, Senna, Tappi, Durrani have moved up the field in the 60 car, getting used to that. The Barwell Motorsport, Aston, then Lamborghini, I should say. Then the Ferrari 488, 18 Racing and Tempto Racing Lamborghini is in 32nd place, and 33rd place HTP Motorsport. In 34th place, another Team WRT car, that's the number 1 machine. Then In 35th place, AF Corsa, 51, and then 36, the Easy Race Ferrari. And 37th place, another Castle Racing, Lamborghini of Antonelli Racing, been in the wars, also in the wars, the 39 Oman Racing car from all the way from Australia, Largo Racing of 40th. Then the Garage 59 McLaren, that's the car that dropped right down through the field, we have to find out why. Then the AF Corsa Perez compact car with Hot Shoe Boltzmann, haven't mentioned him much. Then the number 43 car, Siegfried, you know, we saw him go off right at the beginning. Then the 44, Juncadella, the top gun in that car, and then 45, the ARC Bratislava Lamborghini, then the M3 Ferrari, then the second of the two Nissans in 48th place, the Sandy Flock Racing Audi, and the rest of them pretty well the walking wounded, if not the retired. And in 49th place, another WRT team car, I believe that's required. Then the Team Parker Bentley Lamborghini of Grasser, the second of the Jaguars in 52nd. The Speed Lover Porsche 991 national car, the Ombra Racing Lamborghini, the second of the national Porsches. Then Santilot Racing, and then definitely out the boots on BMW M6, 3 Ferraris. Kaspersky Racing, terrible weekend for classic and modern. And then 61 Garage 59 Ferrari, Bentley, Team Parker, that's not going to finish, and that is it. And we were asking what was happening with that McLaren, why it had dropped back. Well, scoops down there. Charlie, what have you found out?
Okay, well, down at McLaren, looking at the half the pit garage, there's one car in there which is up on jacks and all the mechanics are fast asleep. But you've got the other side of it, the mystery we've all been trying to solve, which is the Bell McLaren. We all know that Rob is a very, very quick Geordie, bless him, and he's actually just done a 1:21 on his previous lap to the one he's on now, so I presume he got held up in traffic, I would have thought. And the leader's already doing like 1:19 to 1:20, judging by the lap time, so he's pretty quick. But what happened to put him down into 41st place was contact in the night with another car, ripped the whole front end off the vehicle and all the underfloor as well, and that was quite a big job to work around that. Hence he just dropped and shuffled very, very quickly down the order. So quite a rejected team down here at the Andrew Cocotti previously interviewed with him earlier, so pretty rejected down here, but they're still battling on. They're still trying to get as high up as the points as they possibly can, and they're still at it. But a real shame for that. But basically, it was damage hitting another car, or damage with another car, maybe a slower car, or somebody chopping their nose off, and that just caused them all of that massive delay, really, to put them back into where they are now, because they were doing so well. So the mystery of the McLaren has now been solved, boys, up in the commentary box.
Oh, great, Charlie. Thanks very much for that. And the
disappointing, because I think we both felt that the McLaren had a very good chance here, and it hasn't worked out quite the way we hoped it would.
Won at the previous round, and leading the championship. And well, I mean, if everything had gone well for them, I did some sums and they could have clinched the championship here. We don't like, you know, what is a relatively short 5-round championship, we don't like to see it clinched before the end. But obviously you're going to have some work to do now. We'll have to obviously crunch the numbers a bit later on to see where it will actually finish up, whether it will still lead the Endurance Blancpain Series. I think still a possibility it might. But of course a lot of points at stake here, and points for the positions at 6 hours, 12 hours and at 24 hours. What's happening right bang at the front of this race? Well, still it is the number 6 Frank Stickler in the lead, and Frank Stickler been around a long time, so does quite a lot of historic racing, loves to go to Goodwood, got some pretty nice cars he gets to race on occasion. Soucek chasing him, and then the number 99 car, that's Enger back in that.
Still so much traffic that if you do find yourself sort of catching up with a group of cars, you can suddenly find that the idea that you're going to put in a 220 is all over Red Rover, and it's a 221 nearly a 222. And this is what's happening to both the leader but also the second place man, who really knows that he's got to get a move on if he's going to actually keep the pressure. And the pressure is what is needed to put on to the leading car, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to actually sit there quite happily without causing too many problems.
Now, this is an interesting graphic with cumulative pit stop times. And look at that, the Audi 6 has been in the garage for 34 minutes, the Bentley number 22 for 37 minutes, BMW M6, and that of course includes the drive-throughs, BMW M6 at 35 minutes and 08 seconds. And then look at that Lamborghini, that's why that's up there. It's only spent 32 minutes in the pits, been having a very clean run. What an absolutely fascinating statistics this is. And look at that other Audi there with over 40 minutes in the pits.
Well, if you thought you could actually stop in the pits for 35 minutes, you could have a snooze, couldn't you? How it works out, when you've got to sort of 11 hours or what have you, that you've actually had that much time stopped in the pits. But very often, and it's a very good figure to look at, it is a fair reminder of what went wrong and why A, B or C didn't win.
Let's have a look at this, Nev, the second place Bentley, and now what might have been, look at that McLaren right up its chuff, right down there in, what is it, 40th place or something. Indeed, in 40th place, and now it's on the same pace. So we just heard from our report from Charlie Butler Henderson, damaged in the night and needed quite a lot of repairs to that, so that held it up.
Drive-through penalty to car 52, track limits. Drive-through penalty, car 52, track limits.
Our race directors, more drive-through penalties, they keep coming. One guy we haven't spoken much about in the night, up in 5th place, younger Tyrolean driver Dominic Baumann, doing a very good job in that car. And a guy who's raced in Formula Masters, and yeah, Dominic Baumann, man to watch for in the future.
Can he yodel a bit? I mean, people like Stuck can, why can't he?
Yeah, well, Stuck says he's Austrian, but I think he was originally born in Germany, but he loves yodeling, that's for sure.
Penalty, car 74, pit lane infringement. Drive-through penalty, car 74, pit lane infringement.
So 74, that's the car in 15th place, battling for the lead of the Pro-Am class. And could that lead? That could drop it back to 2nd place behind the Porsche. So many penalties in this race, I lost count of them, to be frank.
Yes, we had
drive-through penalty, car 101, track limits. Drive-through penalty, car 101, track limits.
Yet another penalty for car 101. And the lead suddenly opened out a bit at the front now. It's 39. I know, I just need to check this out. I'm still waiting for the timing and scoring to cycle through.
Now, at the risk of boring you again, we'll just briefly refer to what is happening, and it's something perhaps that is new to you, because it's not just new to you folks, it's also new to a lot of these drivers here. It has been the case now for many years that drivers can and do actually step out of line because they run over curbs and things like that. You can't put up little walls and sort of that sort of thing, because if you did and you ran a motorcycle race at the same circuit, then somebody would go an awful tumble, and therefore you can't do it. You had to find a way, and there had to be a way to stop, however, the abuse and misuse of the curbs. And what's happened is that in the end they've had to go to the world of electronics, so that in fact they can actually tell whether or not any car goes over there, and they know, and in fact they can even have pictures and proof that it's happening. Now, they've started, if you like, with the iron hand and the velvet glove in punishing a few people and saying track lane infringement or whatever, and not really driving it home And they've also given a few excuses. Don't do it more than twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. But it is going to get harder, and it's going to get stronger. And frankly, a lot of us believe that it's a very sensible thing to do, because there's not much point in having a circuit out and putting curbs all the way around.
Replay here. David Fumanelli loops the loop in the 25 Pro-Am Ferrari. Well, he finishes up pointing in the wrong direction. And you need to get out of the way there. And of course, just as he spins, many cars coming through, just seeing the Conrad Lamborghini going through, but presumably got himself, extricated himself from that rather dodgy situation. And try and work out the relative positions of the first and second car, Neville, because I think he's got almost a lap lead now.
Yes, I think he has too.
Here is that 74 car. Well, more drive-throughs coming through. Just have to see how this cycles out. Currently in the lead of Pro-Am in the ISR car.
Seems that the good doctor has weakened his spell, though.
Warning flag, car 50, track limits. Warning flag, car 50, track limits.
They've certainly been busy, haven't they, with this?
Oh.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to improve the behaviour very much, I have to say. Still people going wide.
Get used to it.
Here's the Raymond Narak car. Raymond, who runs the IMSA Performance team, normally sponsored by Mammoth Insurance. At the wheel at the moment, hugely experienced at class wins at Le Mans. So Stippler and Soucek it is. Front 2 runners. And then the 99 car with Enger at the wheel at the moment. And that Lamborghini still hanging in there. And one of the reasons it's hanging in there is because it has spent so little time in the pits. Very interesting graphic we just saw a few moments ago. Baumann in 5th place still.
Yeah, it's fairly clear that, as you said, Andrew, the number 7 car is not getting anywhere at the moment. It could be that somebody has a little bit longer pit stop or something like that, and it all closes up. But it does seem to me that both of the Bentleys now are no longer, shall we say, in a position to apply pressure.
Well, certainly the 7, as you say, is just hanging there in 9th place when much of the night it was in the top 3. And maybe there's some little problem, but it is a very close group there. And battle at the moment for 6th and 7th place. Adam Christodoulou, Nicky Katzberg, they're separated by a tiny little margin.
It isn't as if you can extremely sort of take care of a car to the point where you can avoid making an extra stop, because every 65 minutes, one way or another, you have to stop. So therefore, there's no question of being able to make things last, if you like, and miss a pit stop, as often is the case.
And in this series, you can't be mega clever and pull a really quick one, because you've got to be in that window we've talked about so much.
So one way or another, it really does make life difficult. It's an intelligent way of going motor racing, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's what I couldn't do.
Porsche. Yes, that's a direct car.
Sounds as happy now as it did when it started, doesn't it?
Well, that's a Porsche for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
A good run indeed by the 88 car. I said it was still one to watch, and that's Christian Vautier, Felix Rosenqvist, and Renger van der Sande.
23 in front of the entrance pit lane under investigation.
Might be some penalties for that, I think. Yeah, so that, yeah, very good run indeed for that 88 car. Nice to see Vautier, who I've seen racing a lot out in the States, and had a season in IndyCar racing, but hasn't got a drive at the moment in that series, going so well here. Christodoulou in the 57 car. He's also hanging in there. Let's have a look at these pit times, these lap times again. And Soucek was certainly on that lap, certainly seemed to close up a bit, but Charlie has been beavering away. Charlie Butler-Henderson, you're down in the pits and you have another story for us.
Yes, I have a little story for you. It's not great news, I'm afraid, but that's, I think, what happens when you have to be a pit lane reporter. Chris Harris, as we know, aka Top Gear, has just rushed out of the car due to being hit. Yes, I say hit. There is a scuff on the rear and on the front, quite heavily on the front end of the white Parker Bentley. They're not having much of a weekend this weekend. Hopefully you can see some of our footage on the camera that is getting it at right now. But he got tagged at the bottom of Eau Rouge, doing well over 130 miles an hour into one of the most daunting corners in the world. Yes, he spun and did a good couple of 360s, skimming the wall, the barrier, the wall, the barrier, the wall, the barrier. And he's very quickly gone and got changed in the truck. We've got Derek Pierce, who's now ready, back in his race suit again, so he's looking like he'll be taking over. And the guys are fitting a brand new aluminium frame to the front, a new front splitter, and some very typical Rush 24-hour agricultural work going on the Bentley. But yeah, not a happy Chris Harris at all. I tried to get hold of him, but couldn't. But yeah, quite a hairy moment, I would have thought, for the very sideways, flamboyant driver. So not good down here at Parker. And not good for Chris Harris.
Well, in the old days, he could have written about it in the Autocar, but of course now he's a TV superstar on Top Gear, and I wonder if he'll share a beer with the famous Matt LeBlanc to discuss it all. But yeah, serious business racing at the Spa 24. So they're having fun with all the Top Gear crew. Chris also had a very successful little production company making, I think it's called Harris on Cars or something like that, which you find on the internet, and his great work, and that helped him get the Top Gear job. And Chris owns a couple of decent cars, including a very nice Ferrari, as far as I've heard. Yeah, the Pro-Am standings. Sadly, that Aston Martin, the Oman car, thought would be right up there, had all sorts of problems, dropped to 14th place.
Yeah, normally they show themselves to be pretty reliable, and that's not been the case at all.
Yeah, been in the wars a bit, I think, had a few other mechanical issues. Now, the lead is 40 seconds between Frank Stippler, one of the big architects of the success of the Audi R8. There, right at the very beginning of the programme, I believe he actually works for Audi Customer Racing as a development driver, but the way that Chris Goodwin works for McLaren. Andy Soucek in second place, and then it's Enga in the BMW, Baumann in the Mercedes, and Baumann just repassed the 16 car, the Lamborghini of Borlotti, and then Christodoulou in the Merc, Katzberg, Rugolo going so well in the number 50, but meanwhile here's a Ferrari pit stop. The number 34 car in the AM class. Very Ferrari red is that machine. Scuderia Praha, Jim Pisarik from the Czech Republic, Joseph Kral from the Czech Republic, the Italian and well-known Ferrari hot shoe Matteo Malicelli, who's driven for the Risi team out in America in the past, and a man we saw looping it not so long ago, David Fermanelli. The 4 that are in that car. More pits activity. And that activity includes the Frank Stippler car coming in. Well, last time that car came in, I was right down there in the pits. I wonder if Frank was staying for a second stint. And indeed, lots of cars coming in. No, Stippler is out of the car. Back on board then. In second place. Will this car cycle up into the lead then? The 8 car. Another set of those Pirellis. It's pretty simple. You don't have to worry too much about tyres here, either dries or the wets. There's only the one compound. There's only the one construction. That's it. Get on with it. And the tyres seem to work pretty well.
You mean there aren't wet tyres?
There's wet tyres.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, but there's no inters.
Yeah.
And there aren't different. There isn't a hard and a soft, for instance, in the slick. Just one tyre does the job.
Yeah, you get wet or dry, but no intermediate, which is frankly not a bad thing.
You go to Le Mans in the prototype class, they've probably got 3 different choices of slicks. So the rain held off all night, thank goodness. Had very few incidents. The odd little run through the gravel, but pretty clear. And that Bentley has indeed taken over the lead, but they're still cycling through the pit stops. And I think once that makes its pit stop, you'll probably see Winkelhock go into the lead again. Winkelhock has just taken over the 6 car. There it is, going out of the pits and onto the racetrack. Manfred Winkelhock, that Formula 1 experience, leading the German Grand Prix as we discussed yesterday. But we had those penalties for Mercedes, but you can't rule them out of this race. The 84 car is in 4th place. Now Christodoulou is in 5th place. Those are the 2 front runners. Maxi Götz is there in 12th still. And the team manager still being ordered to come to race control.
Well, he's still got time.
Had that when I was down at Bentley early on. We had that little slip when that 8 car overshot.
Yes, I think they were rather lucky to get away with that. I rather felt that if you had a more, shall we say, stickier pair of fingers, somebody who wanted to smack their fingers for it, but I don't know how much.
Well, it was pushed back. It was pushed back. I don't know how he got that wrong. And
I didn't see the board come out. And I don't think whether he saw the board come out.
Maybe he didn't
see it come out.
But the team was in a bit of chaos for a moment, quite a bit of shouting, really everybody shouting and so on. You don't like to see that in a race team. But they're confirming, well, not 01 flashing. What a great system this is. We really know where we stand. And of course, also shows the 2 classes. All the cars are in the same category in as much as the technical specifications. The classes are just the gradings of the drivers.
It's interesting that if you look at the Jaguars, they are now more or less close together, but in spite of the delay that the one had, the other one has fallen back with a few problems.
Swings and roundabouts. Raymond Narek in that Porsche still leading the Pro-Am, and maybe pulled away a little bit. We've got Christodoulou in the pits. We've got Nicky Katzberg just come into the pits. And still such a tight group there between 3rd and about 8th or 9th. They make a pit stop and they suddenly go from 4th down to 9th. in one lap, and then it all cycles back through again. And amongst those group of cars, everybody got pretty well the same speed. Would have said that those the top 3 cars I feel are the 3 strongest cars in the race now. And Philip Enger at the wheel of the 99 Row Racing BMW. And he is only, look, 5.578 seconds behind Winkelhocker's getting back up to speed.
Well, it seems to me that it could be any one of 4 cars could take the laurels here at the end of the day, because right up there with them, of course, is the Mercedes, now in 4th place.
And the Mercedes in 5th place.
So there you have it.
There you have it.
An exciting end to what has been quite a dramatic race, which hasn't had...
Yeah, if you say end, it's almost the end of our night shift here.
Our night of it, yeah.
Few minutes to go,
but an exciting end to a dramatic night.
Long way to go yet.
Oh, yeah.
In this could have many twists and turns.
We'll see, but I suspect that there's going to be...
Well, Bruce and John will see. We might be heading for our beds.
Yeah, I think half a dozen is going to make the difference.
Notice that 16 Lamborghini, which has in the night been running up in 5th or 6th place. That has dropped back down into 11th now.
Yeah, they haven't had a good time navigating, have they, during the course?
Well,
of this
there's a lot of Lamborghinis in this race, and that car has been running up, and I think got up to 4th at one stage in the night. Just dropped back. That whole group. When I talked about the group between 3rd and 8th or 9th, it's a group really between 3rd and about 12th that are all so close together and all running. I mean, the gap between the 50 car and the 7 car Stephen Kane is just 3 seconds. That's for 7th place. The next
it's
car
a pit
along,
stop, isn't it? Really, if you get a really nasty slow pit stop because you've had a puncture or something like that, and it takes a little while to get back, it's all over Red Road.
Yeah. Or somebody gets a couple of bad breaks in the traffic and drops back. All of a sudden, you've dropped back 2 or 3 places. There is the Winkelhack car, and Brucey just joined us in the box. Got a smile if I asked him, get a good sleep, Brucey. Well, he's given us the thumbs up, so that's good. So he'll be really revved up and ready to go here. We don't have to rev John Watson up. We know he's going to be right on the rev limiter. Yeah. And, well, he's saying he's losing his voice. We'll squirt something in it. We'll soon sort it out. Bit of the old Irish blarney. And he'll be giving it. And let's not forget what a fantastic career. I think we see John around these races and we forget what an incredible career he had in Formula 1, he had in sports car racing. I was very much an old mate of mine, of course, but, saying to John at lunch yesterday, and I don't want to give too much BS, but, he is the most successful driver in this whole paddock without any question. I mean, what a day it was when he won the British Grand Prix, and how fantastic it is to have John Watson on this commentary team and bringing so much insight, his enthusiasm, and his all that knowledge. And you've got my address, John. Send me the cheque. So I think. Is there a bit of debris on the track, or as they say, debris? And, a piece of motor car.
Right. I'm going to say good evening, good night, good morning, whatever time you want to call it.
I'm not sure if you know if you can punch board or counter.
I have no idea, but I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I hope one day to do it again. But for me,
very good.
Big thanks to all the cameramen, to everybody who's helped me along on a little bit of a comeback here at Spa, which I haven't been to for a very long time, and have a great day.
I think we should have a shout out for Charlie Butler Henderson working with us down in the pit side. Relieved him for a little while, had a lot of fun, grabbed a few interviews there, but Charlie's done a great job reporting and keeping us right up to date. And Charlie, we were seeing you back at the car. Congratulations, mate. Fine job. and you might have a career in this if your mini racing all turns to the brown and nasty. But I know you're leading your championship at the moment, so congratulations on that. Bruce, you leading any championship at the moment? No, he's not. So great. Bruce Jones, of course, with us here, author of many fine books. So from me, Andrew Marriott, I'm going to sign off in just a moment as Bruce dons the speaker, the microphone, and John, you slide in here, and I think you're going to see an absolutely cracking run to the finish of this race.
Well, when John and I left last night, it was the Bs at the front, the Bentleys and the BMWs, and that number 6 Audi was certainly in the mix as well. They are still there. Of course, what we've got to work out now, John's sitting alongside me, is have all the teams done their brake changes they needed to do during the light? And we will keep our eye on that. A lot of them did. I've been looking at notes for the last hour and a half since I woke from my very welcome slumber. And we think a few more teams still have those stops to do, but we'll keep an eye on those for you. But what we can tell you, coming up to 8.5 hours to go, Maxime Soulet leading the race in the number 8 Bentley. You can see the 01 flashing on the windscreen, letting us know he is leading the race outright. The number 6 Audi, Marcus Winkelhock, is on the same lap and just under a lap down. We have the 99 BMW. They've been so strong. Mercedes, of course, the story was at the start of the race, 84 is the best place of the cars. That's Dominic Baumann just coming in to make a pit stop from 4th place. Again, you can see that 04 on the windscreen. But they all started at the back of the grid and had to do a 5-minute stop-go penalty. Well, not stop-go penalty, a stop for 5 minutes penalty. The story of the race, in many ways, has been how much they can catch up, but to try and make up 5 minutes penalty, which is pretty much 2 laps of shame, John Watson. It was always going to be a long time for that to unwind, but it suggests also other cars have hit problems to allow them to advance so far. Right behind in 5th place is the number 50 Ferrari. We saw that leading the race in the opening hour, albeit for 1 lap, with Alessandro Pierguidi at the wheel, but then we saw Passim Latourus put that in the gravel trap Saturday evening here at Spa-Francorchamps. They have recovered their way up there, but just an instant like that and all the corner cutting you can do during the course of the race can be just tossed out of the window. But back up to 5th place for the number 50 Ferrari.
Yes, well, thank you, Bruce, and also a big thanks to Andrew Marriott and to Neville Hay for doing, for the first time here on SRO Blancpain Sprint and Endurance events, a full 24-hour coverage, and doing those long hours from 11 o'clock at night all the way through now to 8 o'clock in the morning, plus Andrew being down in the pit lane and doing innumerable interviews, getting the latest and the best news to our audiences. At the number 8 Bentley, which is the lead car, it makes its way into the pits. So that car in once again, and the lead will then swing back to the Marcus Winkelhock Audi number 6. But Bruce, it's been, in relative terms, a quiet race. There's been a couple of incidents. There was that incident, of course, at the start with the 77 Porsche, Kevin Estre, and one of the lead, the Ferrari, potentially the Giancarlo Fisichella Ferrari. And then subsequently we saw one of the Parker Bentleys getting involved in the barrier. Then the second Parker Bentley appears to have gone off much the same area. But other than the sort of normalities that you get in an endurance race, so far, touch wood, wherever it is in the commentary booth, and the 7 cars being swung round and it's going in now. A number of cars have carried out their mandatory 5-minute pit stops. We're waiting to see whether this is going to be the case for the number 7 Bentleys. It's pushed back in.
Bentley number 8 in the pit lane. Now, both the Bentleys have had punishment before. Number 8 in from the lead of the race, but yeah, it's both Bentleys punished with time penalties in the pit lane before, but they're running at the moment, both in the pits as it happens, 8 and 7 in 1st and 7th place. But will they still be there shortly? We're hearing rumblings of happenings up in race control, and of course most. I think
this is the incident. Yeah, this is the situation which the number 8 Bentley claims. It was the Porsche just to the right of the screen. Precluded the car getting into the pit lane. It was about to make its entry into the pit lane, and then all of a sudden, well, I would have said highly unlikely looking at that, because it was way over to the left.
Well, the maximum stint time is 65 minutes. Already in the race, they did a 65 minutes and 8-second penalty, which gave them a stint time, which gave them a penalty in the pits. That dropped them down the order. Not that much, because they've been running very well in between. But that was a second incident during the night. We're waiting to see if they will advance further. But 12th. No, exactly. So one. Good Bentley, bad Ferrari. The AT Racing Ferrari, very bent indeed on the exit of Pouhon. You can see the marks where he's snapped around to the right, sorry, to the left, and then bounced off the barriers and come back over. But that is over and out for the 55 Ferrari. Trying to spot where that is on the time.
That's just on the screen, so it's coming out of Pouhon in terms of this racetrack, and that car will need assistance because it isn't going nowhere. Damage to the right front and obviously at the rear as well.
Down in 31st position, and that's Thomas Floor at the wheel.
Strange the way the car suddenly snapped in to the left. You can see the marks on the racetrack where suddenly all adhesion was lost.
10 seconds.
Hits the barrier pretty heavily, and we're going to get a full course yellow. Race director just giving the announcement to all the teams.
3, 2, 1, full course yellow now.
Full course yellow. How will that shake out? Bentley, number 8, had made its pit stop and come back out onto the circuit. They'll be cursing they didn't try and make it under full course yellow.
But
they couldn't.
The number 7 car is in the pits right now, and that, I believe, is carrying out its mandatory 5-minute stop. So that's going to work for the number 7 Bentley, but that's further down in the field. So looking into the Bentley garage right now as the work continues. The number 7 up on the jacks. So there's work going on actually underneath the car as well. That's what was being done on the front. So there's issues. We're not yet aware of what those issues are with the number 7, but let's wait and see as we come now down. This is on the run down from Bruxelles, down through Speaker's Corner with no name. Everybody now running mandatorily at 80 kilometers per hour. To full course yellow, we haven't had the safety car deployed. It may not be necessary. It just depends how quickly we can get. There we got another graphic, total times of the cars so far in the race.
What's interesting there, John, is the race leading Bentley number 8 has spent 39 drive-throughs, but 4 minutes more in the pits than the 3rd place BMW. These little things do add up, but with those extra driver penalties, of time in the pits, no doubt that much higher. But again, just as we came on air at 8 o'clock, or just not quite 8 o'clock, yeah, we dropped in a little bit early, just going past that broken Ferrari, number 55, Thomas Floor, drops it, as you say, quite a strange incident. He looked as though he'd pretty much done Pouhon, but round it came and then clattered the barriers. There is our race leader. Well, he was the race leader. He's made the pit stop, and now the number 6 Audi's taken the lead, but the number 6 has just gone into the pits. Bear in mind, he's doing that under full course yellow. Perfect timing for the Phoenix Audi crew.
Yeah, that's just simply what you've got to do. You know, each one of these major teams, these are the sort of, they're not full-on factory teams, but you peel away, and there's the driver of the Ferrari sitting up. He's okay. Yeah, he's fine. I mean, it was a fairly severe hit to the right front of the car, and he indicating that he doesn't need any medical attention. So the car will be dragged. Whether the four-wheel drive snatch vehicle can do it, as we see the BMW in the pits. This was the 2nd place car. Philippe Eng on board, and looks like he's going to stay on board. So we've got the lead Audi, the number 6 in the pits. The 2nd place BMW in the pits. Maxime Soulet in the Bentley number 8 has come in, and there's this dispute about whether he could get into the pit lane. Certainly, if we could see from the onboard camera, he was way over to the left of the racetrack in turn 18, and he would have difficulty getting back across to get into the pit lane, claiming that the Porsche was there. So the BMW working flat out to get these wheels and tires and get back out again, take the best advantage possible of this current full course yellow.
So down off the jacks goes the 99 BMW, going very well indeed for the Rowe Racing crew. 65 cars started this race. It looks they've just lost the number 55, which means we still have 55 cars. So full course yellow, it's a very good chance indeed to see what's happened in the first 15 hours or so of the Spa-Francorchamps, sponsored by Blancpain here at the 24 Hours. And it started under rolling cloud, but generally a bright afternoon Saturday. And down came the Belgian flag. Linkin Park, they've got their livery all over the rock group, the 00 Mercedes. But for them, frustration, of course, the Mercedes starting at the very back of the grid. And it was René Rast leading away as the lights went green on the downhill start towards Eau Rouge. Mirko Bortolotti dropping in right behind in the Lamborghini. Bentley in 3rd place, and the yellow Ferrari right in there in the group as well from AF Corsa. A little bit of body body rubbing, but unfortunately for one of the most experienced Ferrari drivers in the field, Marco Seefried, into the gravel. Was he pushed? Did he jump on the opening lap? 4 of the 6 Mercedes that were given a 5-minute penalty they had to serve early in the race came in at the end of the opening lap, and that was a break for them because, of course, full course yellow, John, and that was a chance to reduce the damage done by the 5-minute stop.
No doubt whatsoever. I mean, sometimes you've got to be lucky as well as being good, and that was the case with that very early full course yellow.
But then on the restart, René Rast, something went amiss, and he couldn't get the power down out of La Source, so Bortolotti took the lead. Bortolotti came in the green Lamborghini, number 16 from the lead. Lots of action at the top part of the circuit, and you can see the speed lover Porsche keeping out of the way as the Ferraris jousted behind. Led for 1 lap, the 50 Ferrari, with Pierre Guidi going so well, but after that it was the story of 2 of the WRT Audis giving chase to race leader Mirko Bortolotti in the green Lamborghini. Looking up the inside, Robin Frinks, always such an attacking driver, couldn't make the move stick, but really putting the pressure on. And then body contact coming out of the pits, the 77 Porsche, huge hit there, Kevin Estre, and on the outside, Motuaki, who was minding his own business, we think. John.
And subsequently, Kevin Estre has said, look, you know, there is an issue at the exit of the pit lane. There is a blind spot. He was coming out at full speed. There were 2 Ferraris side by side racing. So it wasn't an intentional contact. It was simply that he just wasn't aware, as maybe he would needed to have been, of the 2 Ferraris, so that was the cause of the contact.
And then long repairs. Fisichella knew he was out of the race. His teammate Motuaki was fine, but the barrier on the exit of Raidillon certainly wasn't, and lengthy time was taken to repair. But you've got to be sure with barrier repairs that you do them absolutely properly. Then, when the field was released, some still coming in to make their pit stops. It was BMW leading from, it looks as though nobody. What's behind? Is it a Porsche? No, right behind. The Porsche's in 3rd place, leading the Pro-Am class, but it was the McLaren, number 58, up and charging. This was the car that was supposed to take a tilt, the last car to go out in Superpole. It didn't get to make its run properly, had to flip the engine off, there was a problem, but then fantastic racing. And then in from 1st, 2nd and 3rd shortly afterwards was the BMW, was the McLaren, and was the IMSA Narak Porsche in 3rd place, and the Bentleys kept on coming, and the racing super tight, but the number 8 crew working their way ever closer to the front. But coming in from the lead, you can see the 0-1 flashing on the windscreen, that shows 1st position. But all through the early hours of the race, John, the cars seemed to be scrambled out of order because of these full course yellow periods, and then other factors. We had a little downpour of rain, but it lasted less than 5 minutes. It led to a few slippery moments out on the circuit, but the track remained predominantly dry. But in this time we had Jaguar. We didn't expect them to be big guns here at the circuit, but the 2 Emil Frey Jaguar was going very well indeed. You can see the slippery circuit there into the bus stop. And going particularly well among the Audi crews was the Phoenix crew, bettering for many stages of the race, the Team WRT entries, and still the Emil Frey Jaguars kept coming. Chase at this point by the number 7 Bentley that was right in the clipping of the cone there. Maybe that was the pit stop infringement for one of the 2 Jaguars that led to a drive-through penalty for them. And then Passin Lathuris, the Thai driver, puts the 50 Ferrari off into the gravel. That's cost them a lot of time. Yeah, but
the irony of all these incidents much earlier in the event is that currently that 50 Ferrari in the hands of Michele Rugolo is actually in 5th place, albeit now it's just leaving the pit lane. So what happens in the first 3 or 4 hours of this race, it bears no relation to where you might be now, just after 8 o'clock in the morning here, Spa-Francorchamps. The light is full, so the racetrack in a pretty good condition, other than we had a little of a spillage coming up into the bus stop chicane, but that was a number of hours ago, and that's all been cleared away.
Well, we've just seen an off there for Derek Pierce at the top of the hill, but what we saw before was the race to get out of the pits between McLaren and BMW, and that factor over the night. One thing that's changed is the number 58 McLaren crew had mechanical problems, dropped way down the order. We see the Bousson-Ginion BMW limping its way back, smoking its way back, lots of wheel arch damage for that. The sun, it came out from behind the clouds briefly for an appearance at sunset, but then we went into full darkness, and then we had another BMW problem, and this was Giorgio Roda going off on the exit of Raidillon. More barrier damage, but they didn't take too long to fix it. It was party time at night as we left the circuit at 11 o'clock to go and get a little bit of shut-eye and let Andrew Marriott and Neville Hay take over. It was partying down in the paddock, but the racing kept on going, and the good thing, it stayed in pretty plain racing conditions. But just before we left, there was a bit of contact out of the back of the circuit with 2 of the leading cars, the René Rast Audi in the middle of the screen, and to its left the Jaguar with Jonathan Hershey, who then clattered into a Ferrari and went off. That was the corner after Pouhon, and that really dropped the Jaguar out of the reckoning. Bit of damage to the 28 Audi, that had to limp its whole way back.
Yeah, I mean, that Audi again spending time in the pits, getting repaired to the bodywork. There we see it leaving the pit lane again. After all its travails, it's now fought its way back up. I mean, at one point earlier this morning when Laurens Vanthoor was behind the wheel doing absolutely unbelievable. I think he did a 2 minute 18 point something when he was in clear air, and with that heavy dense air you get in the early hours of the morning. I mean, stunning lapping yet again from Laurens Vanthoor as we look into the Bentley team. Andy Soucek relaxed, reclined. There's again contact as it's one of the Lamborghinis.
10 seconds before green.
Lamborghinis went very well indeed, but then they started having the problems. A bit of oil put down on the track. Well, that happens inevitably during a 24-hour co-race. One of the Parker Bentleys facing the wrong way at Les Combes. You didn't want that. We've just heard while we're going through the green flag is being waved and the car's just being released. One of the McLaren's just come past our commentary box window and accelerated away, but BMW going very, very well indeed. Don't forget, of course, Rowe Racing didn't have BMWs until this year, so the M6 has come in and they've taken to it absolutely fantastically.
I mean, this is a very strong showing from the BMW. It's been from about, again, 4-6 hours into the race. We've seen that 99 car run consistently at the front again. Alistair Sim behind the wheel at one point. Now we got Philippe Eng, and it's just metronomically swapped the lead with the number 8 Bentley, the number 6 Audi. We're just beginning to see the Mercedes that, of course, at that major penalty at the start of the race, they're beginning to show their faces into the top 6 from time to time. And of course the 50 Ferrari, Michele Rugolo behind the wheel, and that's a car with Alessandro Pueguidi that clearly is the lead of all the Ferraris. So a little further contact unnecessarily. So the 75 Audi got rotated, didn't do any damage to it. That was the Henri Acide Frank Pereira car, very quick car in the hands of Frank Pereira and also Nicolas Lapierre.
Yeah, Bentley kept on coming through the night for Team Parker Racing. Their Bentleys were in the walls, unfortunately, and bodywork repairs for those. The teams all had to take not just their regular pit stops, a lot of them needed to come in and make their mandatory 5-minute pit stop for brake changing and so on. And we'll see now from 4th place, brake changes coming up for the 98 crew. Yeah, I mean, you got a caliper and a set of pads and a disc, so they just remove one whole unit and replace it with another. Now we see the Ferrari getting it all wrong. Now we know that one of the Ferraris had a major problem, engine blow up, or certainly a major oil leak coming up into the final 2 corners, turns 18 and 19, dragging a lot of rubbish. You can see the grass that's been mown as the car bounced and slithered its way across. So that was up into whether this particular Ferrari, there is probably, that is the culprit. That was a 41. 41 is one of the 2 classic and modern racing cars. So that didn't affect the Bentley. Or was the oil on the tyres from before the bus stop? And for Wolfgang Riep, the next corner he got to, having got round the bus stop, was where he went for this spin, La Source, and he managed to do a 360 pirouette and carry on down the hill. But the clean-up operation had to commence. You can see all the dust that's been laid down to try and mop up this oil. Certainly finding oil in the middle of the night, not the best thing to keep you on your toes. Well, it keeps you on your toes, but you might have had a little rotation beforehand. But the racing's still fast and fierce at the front end. But Bentley, well, here's a little mistake, overshooting your pit stop for the number 8 crew. So that was Wolfgang Riep. He had the moment up at La Source and then the rotation, and then overshooting his pit stop, and then a bit more clearing up from 20th position. You can see a car stricken at the side of the circuit and certainly would be dropping down the order. Beautiful shot there of a partly obscured moon, a very small moon. And night fuses slowly into day. Wonderful shots at Spa-Francorchamps. Very, very emotive indeed. What a fabulous circuit in which to go racing, or to sit in the deck chair in the pit garage and have a sleep. But they're not sleeping at Phoenix because the number 6 Audi is still right at the sharp end of the field at just past 8 o'clock in the morning, flying in 3rd place. But leading the way, the number 8 Bentley is in 2nd place, says first on the windscreen, but that's since changed during the pit stop shuffle. 99 leading the way for BMW. Back live, the standings with just over 8 hours remaining. Leading the way is the Rowe Racing BMW. At the wheel at the moment is Philippe Eng. And Soulé, Soucek and Riep in the number 8 Bentley in 2nd place. Mies, Stippler and Winkelhock, and it's Winkelhock at the wheel in 3rd place, all on the lead lap. 1 lap down, Vanthoor, Rast and Muller. Keep expecting that one to come towards the front. It's had a few little niggly problems, but Vanthoor set the fastest lap of the race during the night. Hout, Simonsen and Christodoulou, 57. They're the best place of the Mercedes in 5th place overall. If you're looking down to see who's leading the Pro-Am class in 14th place. It's Raymond Narak for the IMSA Porsche crew, the Kodak livery car, 3 laps down. Looking for other Mercedes, you'll see them working their way up the order. In 15th place, we've got Bernd Schneider, possibly the best Mercedes pilot over the decades, up into 15th place. Who's leading the way in the AM class at the moment? It's the 51 crew. And that's Peter Mann, Francesco Guedes, Rino Mastronardi, and the driver at the wheel at the moment, Matteo Cressoni, in 33rd place, but they're not that far clear of the number 888 Ferrari that's had some very good stints through the night. Zanutini, Gitlin, Talbot, and Kadar. You can see them there, 33rd and 34th positions. And you have to look all the way down. In fact, all the next screen is still running in the race. We go down to 56th position. That's the bottom placed of the 65 starters. We had a little bit of incident early on. We saw on the replays Kevin Estre and Moto Aki having that clash. The next car to go was Giorgio Roda, also at Raidillon. We've had spins, we've had a little bit of side-to-side contact, but it's been a very, very good race so far. But leading the way, it's BMW, from Bentley, from Audi, and you've got to say, 3 manufacturers duking it out at the top of the field. That's very, very good for the sport, John.
Yes, indeed. But one just notification, now we're going through the highlights, that the number 8 car has been given another penalty for driver behind the wheel. So it has served that, or will have to serve that penalty. For the second time in the race, that number 8 car has had an issue with behind the wheel too long.
But when you come back into a race after a little bit of shut-eye, you just wonder how things are going. Well, it's there on the screen for us to see. That is the lead battle. You've got the BMW jinking around and jinking even more behind as they put Lamborghini behind them one more time. Is the second place Bentley. So it's Philippe Eng from Maxime Soulet on home ground. And very, very tight indeed. Bentley and BMW were rising to the top when we decided to take our leave of the race at 11 o'clock last night and hand over to Andrew Marriott and Neville Hay, and they're still here. They could not get closer, but of course the fly in the ointment is the penalty that will have to be served for the number 8 crew.
Yes, and it's up to the team to make that decision. Personally, I think the sooner you take it, the better, get it out of the way. But of course, the concern is you never know if there will be another incident which might bring out a safety car or just simply a full course yellow. So let's see what Bentley does. Are they going to make this penalty at this point? Get the car, it is coming in. So they're going to do their drive through at the earliest opportunity, get it out of the way. Just get the car down to the 50 kilometers per hour. It's a miserable thing to have to do. Second time Bentley have been caught on that. On this particular occasion, they claimed force majeure. They said they couldn't get across into the pit lane. We saw the onboard shot. We couldn't see with the Porsche, which was the car that they said was in the part of the racetrack they wanted to be. We just saw that the Bentley was very far over to the left in turn 18, and then it continued on. So that was the reason, not the reason, that was the effect of the penalty being then being levied. That gives the BMW a lovely little cushion because Markus Winkelhock will be elevated, one would assume. Just have to wait and see just where in fact the Bentley does come out. It's on its second leg of this 2-leg pit lane here in Spa-Francorchamps. This is the bit that goes down past, we call it now the Heritage Pits. These are the original pits complex at Spa-Francorchamps, so make your way down. It's a 78-second time from pit entry to pit exit.
It's a sort of pit lane tour, isn't it? You try the one, you try the two, but as you said, your concentration, you've just got to keep yourself fired up. Of course, these days they come onto the circuit at the top of the hill at Raidillon, which led to its problems for Kevin Estre last night, that when he clattered it into Moto Aki's 53 Ferrari, and the conclusion there was lots of damage. He used to come out onto the circuit at Eau Rouge, maybe not the best place, but now they come in. Oh, when he cut the white line there, John.
Exactly, and I mean, that's just something, that's carelessness. You must not do that. That could be seen, and I again would wait to see whether the race director decides that was again an infringement. But ordinarily, you must stay within those white lines until you are back onto the. Well, I mean, that is part of the racetrack, but those are the demarcations. So Maxime Soulet, in his haste, he crosses at the white line. Now watch here, he shoots the white line. I don't think you're meant to do that. You're meant to stay within the 2 white lines.
Well, you know, that's right at the crest of the hill. You wonder how well he can see it, but they're there for a reason. He's got to know he's got to stay within them. And we know at Bentley they should be smashing their stopwatch because they've now got 2 excessive driver stints. One, whether or not we haven't been able to see it on screen, a Porsche was in the way. That's a problem. But for Maxime Soulet, we were just saying as he came down the Heritage Pits, he's got to keep his concentration. Sure. There's a little slip-up. What will be the ramifications?
I don't know if it was a slip-up. I think he was just on it so hard. But in normal circumstances and any racetrack where the pit lane blends back into the circuit itself, there's always a demarcation line at the exit of the pit lane, and there you are required to stay to the right of it, assuming it's a clockwise circuit. In this instance here at Spa-Francorchamps, the pit lane is a long and meandering sort of tour of Belgium almost before you get back onto the circuit. And there are two white lines, as we would see. It has always been my understanding that you must stay within those two white lines until you get onto what I would call the racetrack full or proper. It may not be something that will be taken any further, but it's again an issue, because if you allow drivers to do so, then that's an advantage.
If you allow them, they will take that opportunity. Looking at the number 6 Phoenix Audi, running in third place, Marcus Winkelhock at the wheel. Starting to see some pretty quick times. You talked about track conditions being good. Still some cars at this point in the race, in the cool morning hours, setting their fastest laps. 2:20 is a good lap time. Now, the two Audis you can see on screen, we just mentioned third place, the number 6 car. The fourth, number 04 on the windscreen, fourth place is the 28 car, but that is a lap down. Nico Muller at the wheel, but he's got a very handy pair of teammates in Laurence Vanthoor, who is effectively Mr. Audi R8 Ultra, and René Rast. So a very, very quick crew there. Nico Muller does great things as well, of course, in the Porsche Super Cup. He has done many things over the years. Now that's, again, a problem. Speed Lover Porsche getting slightly in the way. Bentley coming through as well into the mix. And
I mean, that's the responsibility of the Porsche. It needs to be aware that these cars are coming through. Clearly, it's difficult to identify them still with their headlights on, but he didn't do a particularly good job in allowing the Audi to get through. The Audi had to go off track to make that pass cleanly, and again, the Mercedes 85 slips up the inside of the Porsche. So, you know, in the hands of some of the AMs, they're getting just caught at a point where the quick cars are all coming through. The AMs have got to go with motor racing as well. They are there, but it's ultimately the responsibility and fact of the quick car to give the slower car some discretion. Yeah, but when you're behind the wheel in one of those quick cars, battling for a top 10 position. In the case of the 85 Mercedes, it's further down the field. It's not right now in contention in the top 20.
31st position, well, he's 8 laps down.
Okay,
so,
but they're still pushing. The car that really was the one that was the impressive car as we came out of nighttime into daytime was the 28 Audi, when in the hands of Laurence Vanthoor, he was doing unbelievable lap times, and that is in part why that car has now found its way back up into fourth place. If you remember earlier in the night when the contact occurred down at Fagnes with the 114 Jaguar, and damage to the left rear of the Audi, again typical of WRT and Audi Sport. Got the car in, turned it round, got it back out again. Okay, the back of the car wasn't quite stock pretty, but at least the car capable of running very. Now here again you see the Porsche in the middle of the road, the Audi forced, carrying so much more speed up and over Eau Rouge Raidillon, Bentley behind also. So you've just got to keep your wits alert and be aware of what is happening. And in fact, also when we had the rear shot of that Speed Lover Porsche, you can see that the scars of war at its tail end being clattered by someone earlier in the race. Christopher Haase, Audi 74, followed very closely by 76 as they come out of La Source, Herpen down the hill. Well, that's the Pro-Am class battle. Yep. 12 seconds between them apparently, but certainly not on track. That was last time around. So 74 going very well for ISR. How long will it stay in the lead of its class? And that's Andreas Seed being pushed very, very hard indeed. Up into Lecum. That's the number 5, Andy, so that's in a separate category. I was just about to say, looking at the timing screen, Andreas Seed has got 12 seconds over Raymond Narak in the Pro-Am class. But 74 leading the way. That's the white Audi we can see running down the hill, followed by one of the WRT cars. There we are, 0-1 on the windscreen. Not leading the race overall, but leading the Pro-Am class. As we go pretty much close to just 8 hours remaining. Nearly 2/3 distance done here at the Spa. 24 hours. Circuit still in very good condition. You can see as the light is now really starting to be fairly full in the sky. It's quite a grey morning. It's a very flat light actually. Not a problem for drivers, but it just the sky and the racetrack almost look one and the same colour. And that's the reason why teams are still running with headlights. I mean, they're not required under this sort of time of day, time of morning. But nonetheless, some of the cars still feel that they want to have that. And also, of course, you can see, particularly coming down into the 57 car, trying to get through some of the slower cars. Well, that's the leading Mercedes. That car actually was one of the Mercedes that didn't receive a penalty because it didn't get into the top 20 in that top 20 shootout, largely because on Friday morning they had an engine seizure and they didn't really get that car ready to go until the nighttime session, so they missed out on the top 20. And ironically, that's sort of given them that little bit of a sort of hip and shoulder up through the field to be the lead Mercedes of the number that are here, and particularly the top 6 cars that dominated the shootout and then had their times disallowed because of issues with their ECUs.
But right now, Adam Christodoulou will be getting very frustrated to still be behind the Pro-Am Porsche. That's the 76 car. Raymond Narak driving it very well indeed, but Raymond down in 17th place, Christodoulou in 5th, and trying to catch up to Nico Muller in the 28 Audi. Look how dense the traffic is. 7 cars as if covered by a blanket into the bus stop. Not even one of them goes into the pit lane, trying to pick out which of the WRT Audis is, as another one just drives a little bit wide on the circuit. In fact, that's the one of the cars from Phoenix getting it wide. Nissan's still at the front. It's not been a great race for Nissan, John. They had their problems early on, just looking to see if they're on the front page of the timing screen. And no, they're not. In fact, they've spent very little. Buncombe up to 25th position. By the time we went home last night, he was in the 40s. So yeah, places gained there.
There's not been a great race, all told, for Nissan. The 22 car just, I think, made its way into the pits. So that's been running around the sort of the middle 40s. Matthew Simmons. Oh, sorry, Matthew in that 22 car.
Yeah, Matthew Simmons, yes, Matthew the Australian racer.
Yeah, so he just, I think, has pulled into the pits. But you get the 86 car. That was the quickest car as of Friday night.
Number 7 on the windscreen, so it too has worked its way forward. Certainly the most eye-catching of the Mercedes AMG GT3s. Fabulous shot as the drivers go down from the top of the hill at Les Combes, but then
in 7th place. So again, another great drive from that team of Maximilian Goetz, and
well, he's the gun driver in that car, and he's the one who's in at the moment. He's giving chase to Nicky Katzberg in the 98 BMW.
Gary Paffett in it for the first time. Would you say who's the gun driver in that car? You got Thomas Jaeger, Maximilian Goetz, Gary Paffett, all 3 of them. Your top line, certainly either in German touring cars or in endurance. So the 86 gets through cleanly. Maximilian Goetz threads his way past the 22 Nissan. It didn't make it into the pit lane, so that with Matthew Simmons, so that car still running in 46th place and pretty well down in its category. Disappointing. We've just pointed out how much Mercedes had hoped in this 24-hour race. Maybe they would find the form that we have seen from the car and from the Nissan team last year, just not happening this year.
Not at all. So in Super Pole, the 86 car was the one with Maxi Goetz at the wheel that took provisional pole position, that Super Pole shootout, and then Mercedes late on Friday evening were told that their ECUs didn't correspond with how the ECU settings had been when the cars were homologated for their balance of performance assessment, and they were given not only their times disallowed and pushed back down the grid order, their times from Super Pole chucked in the bin, but given also a 5-minute mandatory penalty in the pit lane. And the story for them, the Mercedes crews, has been fighting their way back up the order. Looking there at the leader in the AM class, that's Matteo Cressoni, and being chased by the 888 Ferrari. We always thought the AM battle would be a Ferrari battle, and there they have the top 3 positions. The 333 car, the one we saw go off on the opening lap with Marco Seefried at the wheel. 4 laps down in class, but up into 3rd place, and it's places pay points. We had an allocation of points 12 hours into the race, so at 4:30 this morning. But really, all teams, that's a bonus for them. They're gunning for good results in this event. The Spa 24 Hours to give them a healthy helping of points at this midway point in the Blancpain GT series. But Matteo Cressoni, in one of the, to my eye, best looking Ferraris, the dark blue with the red, white and green Italian stripes on it, going very well at this point. 33rd position overall, 9 laps down on the overall leader, but doing a very tidy job to stay ahead of the 888 crew with Nicky Kadai at the wheel at the moment. Italian crew in the 888, or Italian driver in the 888 at the moment, and Italian driver in the 51 class leading car, 33rd position.
Well, 2 different classes of car. particularly the Audi looking to make a way through, dives down the inside into Pujo. The Mercedes looking to slip through as well, taking advantage of that opportunity the Ferrari opened up. So, and it's so easy for a driver in a slow car to let a quick car go through, to not actually realise that there's another quick car right up your... That was Sergio Jimenez in the number 3 Audi that got through. Again, now coming out of a source, another group of cars with one of the Mercedes, 2 of the Mercedes in fact. So they come down the hill. That's the 0-0 car, or the LinkedIn car, I beg your pardon. So it comes up.
Well, just in
that... Actually, there's 3 Mercedes in that whole group of cars.
Yeah, but among them is the second place car, the 888 crew. Second place, Niki Kadai in the AM class. But really right now, as you say, that's a Mercedes battle going up the hill with the second place AM car, 888. In the midst of it for Kessel Racing. There it is now at the back of that group. It doesn't want to be taken out by one of the front-running cars or the cars charging to the front. Its battle is to try and win its class. Down in AM, because obviously each of the championship positions in class gives very helpful positioning and points. 0-2 on the windscreen, and it's in orange lights, which means it's the AM class. Kessel Racing went very well indeed, won the GT Sports Club events, 2 races in the lead to lead up to the Spa 24 Hours. More bodywork repairs or continued bodywork repairs to Team Parker Racing. They would have run out of duct tape shortly.
I think it's a work in progress. I mean, they've done a huge amount of work. They had to fit a new guard to the right-hand side of the Bentley, but of course all the other bits that attach, and everything is attached to everything else. So if one part of the whole process is damaged, then the whole system has got to be... Basically, it's a jury rig that they've done, and they use this gaffer tape. What would motorsport be without gaffer tape? Basically, it was helicopter tape that they were used in the aero industry, and then it's been adapted by the motor racing industry. As we look at the 50 Ferrari, Michele Rugolo currently in 8th place. Again, a car that we saw off on the gravel when the Thoros managed to find a way, passing Thoros, stuck it into the gravel unexpectedly, but again, by just doing some good work, primarily by, I suspect, Michele Rugolo and Alessandro Perguidi in the nighttime hours, gets that car up into the top 8 positions.
Yeah, the amount of ground the 50 Ferrari has made up, it's quite clear that they had a very, very clear run through the night, and they dropped onto the second page of our timing screen, which is 21st position, way down below them, down to 40th.
Michele Rugolo's only got the 2.8 second advantage over Felix Rosenqvist in the 9th place 88 Mercedes, so that's not a comfortable 8th place, and you'd think the pace that the Mercedes is running at, well, actually it's running at the same pace as the Ferrari, so there's not very much to pick and choose between those two. And there is the 88 car, it's the bright red orange car. We can't see the Ferrari up ahead. Well, bright yellow car, there it is now. So there's, well, it's more than those 2.8 seconds we saw on the last lap. Again, it's the ebb and flow of catching traffic at different parts of the circuit.
And it's worth pointing out, 8th place for the 50 Ferrari, but it's only 3 seconds down on Maxi Götz in the 86 Mercedes. So 7th, 8th and 9th, very close, covered by 6 seconds, and certainly Felix Rosenqvist in the 88 now started to play catch-up for ACA ASP. There it is, great looking car in the 88 colours. In 9th place overall. He's just taken another fraction of a second back off the disadvantage he picked up in the traffic. Traffic, a real factor, but he's got to pick off 2 other cars ahead of him, a couple of Audis to get closer to Michele Rugolo in the number 50 Ferrari. But as we come up to 8:30 on Sunday morning at Spa-Francorchamps, it is BMW leading the way, and here is the 5th place battle. It's Nico Muller, and right behind in a real charge is Adam Christodoulou in the 57, the best placed of the Mercedes, going up the inside. Don't worry, that's of one of the Attempto Racing Lamborghinis. And there we have very close behind as well, Nicky Katzberg in 6th in the BMW, super close. There we were looking 7th, 8th and 9th. Why not look at 4th, 5th and 6th?
Yeah, well, absolutely, it's Nicky Katzberg is the one that's, I think, on the charge, having to be a little bit patient. As the Mercedes runs wide, the Lamborghini allows the Katzberg BMW to get through. So it was a bit of a double benefit for Nicky Katzberg. He was given the track position by the Lamborghini, and Christodoulou and the Mercedes a little bit wide on the entry into Bruxelles. So now the BMW right on the exhaust pipes of that 57 Mercedes.
And in some ways, a bit of a novel experience in this race. We'd had the BMWs fighting principally with Audis and Bentleys, and now they've got to get used to fighting with Mercedes, as the Mercedes have worked their way inexorably up through the field. Adam Christodoulou, 17.5 seconds down on Nico Muller, but all eyes for him will be, well, most of his eye will be on what's approaching from behind. And Nicky Catsburg, last time around, 0.8 of a second quicker. And now it's a question of where they're going to get traffic and who's going to get the better jump. But running very wide, a Lamborghini just ahead of them. And there goes Christodoulou, bottom part of the circuit curve, Paul Frette, and then they start the climb up towards Blanchimont. And of course, eventually up to the bus stop. We've had oil on the circuit there. It's all been cleared up about 3 or 4 hours ago. Wave blue flags from the marshals. Of course, when you have 65 cars starting a race, and there are going to be some tail enders that are not as quick as the front guys. You can see one of the Porsches keeping very tightly out of the way. Catsburg trying to position the car to gain an advantage from the 63 Lamborghini that's absolutely creeping around those bus stops.
That's just careless, because the Lamborghini was all over the shop coming into the chicane, and that's the 63 Grasser Racing of Nicola Pola, Diego Alesi and others. And just meandering around as if, well, where's the racetrack? I don't know where I am. And of course, you've got 2 cars in a battle, the 57 Mercedes, the 98 BMW. They don't know where that Lamborghini is intending to be, but they've gotten through cleanly. What to me is very impressive is that in the top 6, we got both the BMW, the 99 car, again, Philipp Eng leading. The Lamborghini just coming out of the pit lane. That's the sister Grasser car. So both the Mercedes and the BMW are able to get through. Looking to go down the inside, Nicky Catsburg, one of the stars from here last year in the Z4Ms.
Very different shape of car this year with the M6. It's the car that really appeals, but it gives the drivers, I think you were talking about this last night, it gives the team so much more scope. The Z4 was a much smaller package.
It was a much older package also. What they've done is they've taken the shell of the M6, which is a physically larger car, and they've been able to do probably a better packaging job of all the important bits. And in particular, I mean, I've looked under the hood in the BMW and how they've installed the engine and where the turbos are located and where they exhaust those turbos. It is, I would say, unique in terms of installation of any of the GT3 cars here this weekend. A very, very sophisticated race car. And this is, we've seen it run competitively, but this is the first time in an endurance event of this length, 24 hours, that we've seen the car run consistently. And all 3 drivers in that 99 BMW, this is the 98 sister car, have been able to get in and run competitively. And it's, so far, the car's run totally trouble-free. I hate to say it, but that's what
it's too late. The cat is out the bag. We're looking at cat on our timing screen. That is Nicky Catsburg. It listed as a 0.17 of a second down on Adam Christodoulou. He's lost a little bit of ground there. And certainly you do wonder what that 63 Lamborghini was thinking of at this stage in the race. It wasn't like the driver's first lap, but getting very much in the way of both of them, however, last time they reached the bus stop. This time they've got a bit of breathing space. 57 Christodoulou turns in. Nicky Catsburg still on the attack. And John, you were talking last night again about the M6. Positioning of the exhaust immediately behind the front wheels. Why is that?
It's because the way the engine has been installed is exceptionally low on the chassis, and they've opted to where they mount the turbos, which is, again, right back against the bulkhead. And it's a very complicated exhaust system. They've got some very sophisticated materials under the hood to keep the temperature, the under hood temperatures in control. But it's all about the packaging and getting the weight where they want it, all between the wheels. And you know, the BMW M6 is what would loosely be described as a front-engine GT car. But in this interpretation of the regulations, it's more like a mid-engine, much the same as the AMG GT3 Mercedes is. It's a mid-engine, front-engine car. So this is the progress that we're seeing coming from these manufacturers as the 85 car into the pits. And that's the Clement Schmidt car down in 31st place. So they've obviously had other issues during the night and dropped that car down to the middle 30s.
Well, whatever it is, the car looks in immaculate condition at this point. Certainly a lot of the other cars showing scars of battle. We saw the Team Parker Bentley having been taped up after not 1 but 2 incidents in which it's had a bit of bodywork clatter. And for 85, wind it up please, and that job is done, but doesn't look as though they're going to come back from there. But the real battle out on the circuit is the battle for 5th place. Adam Christodoulou in the 57 Mercedes still holding off the best that Nicky Catsburg can throw at him. They're 2 laps down on the race leader, half a second between them as they go out of Pouhon and catch a bit more traffic as they get towards, well, they run through the Piff Paff and then they'll be onto the tail as they make the climb back up the hill towards the pits.
I mean, one of the developments we've seen with the 2016 range of GT3 cars coming through is that they are getting more sophisticated. The BMW case in point, almost to the point where these are no longer what I would describe as turnkey cars. I mean, 3, 4, 5 years ago, your 458 Ferrari, your Porsche, maybe even your Audi R8 V10 would be a turnkey car. But even Audi, and to some degree maybe with the Lamborghini with the Huracan, they're just evolving and evolving and evolving to such a degree that you need almost a full-blown quasi-factory team, as the BMW is closest as ever been to the back of the Mercedes, and Nicky Catsburg just trying to balance the BMW on the throttle, on the steering, but certainly did run the Mercedes down coming into those final 2 turns. Adam Christodoulou doing all he can to stay ahead. The two are lapping in the middle, 2 minutes 22, and that's the pace, in fact, of pretty much everybody in the top 6.
Now here's a car that led the race briefly yesterday evening, then 44 Aston Martin. It's tumbled down through the night, way down the order. It was the leading car in Pro-Am. It's now down to about 10th place in class. Didn't quite catch the number on the windscreen, but the 44 car, Johnny Adam taking over. Devon Modell has just climbed out there towards the end of the Heritage pit lane. But look how close Nicky Catsburg is now on the climb up the Kemmel Straight. Will he be able to make a move to go past Adam Christodoulou? He's gone on the outside run, has his nose slightly ahead, but then has to cede under braking into the corner. It's all about unsettling Adam Christodoulou. But Adam, so many years of international racing experience, he wasn't going to leave the door open. No,
he was on the inside, legitimately so, and it was his corner. The BMW needed to be further ahead to be able to swing the nose around and force the issue. And I mean, you might do that in a 5-minute sprint race, but not in a 24-hour endurance race. You don't feel your crew who stayed up through the night would thank you for it if you put it off. But in fact, Christodoulou gained a bit, but we've just had a little report, a bit of rain on the lenses of cameras out around the circuit, as we always say at Spa-Francorchamps. Super close, very brave dive there from Christodoulou down to put another car between himself and Nicky Catsburg. Can't see the rain, can't see it out of our window in the commentary box overlooking the principal pit lane on the start-finish straight, but let's look on the windscreen. A little bit, yes. Little dots on the 58. That's the McLaren that was right up at the front end last night, certainly rotating through the top 10 according to pit stop sequences, but way down the order. I don't know whether those marks on the windscreen are actually marks from debris on the track hitting the windscreen of the car, or whether that is raindrops. It looks to me more like those are debris. Debris damage on the windscreen. The 58 McLaren has had a disappointing run. I've really been sort of disappointed from that. Is now maybe there's a bit of rain, looks like it's falling, and we're very close indeed. Nicky Catsburg trying to get through some of the back markers, really a little bit too close to the tail of the Audi, and it sort of bailed out of the throttle, almost out of shock and awe as the BMW comes through. So Catsburg having to do a little bit more work. In fact, it's not a bad thing. It allows him to pick up his own inherent pace, to run back up and try and use that momentum to have another pop at getting ahead. But again, a car between these two battling over that 5th place in fact. Well, snaking our way up behind the 60 McLaren in the Pro Class. Maxime Soulet, 2nd place at the moment for the Bentley crew, but getting a chop there. But the car in front had to turn into Les Combes at some time. But certainly for Maxime Soulet, he wanted to get past before the corner. Now he's stuck behind the Audi as they take the run down the hill. That's 75, one of the 2 ISR cars. And he still hasn't got it done. I mean, of course, the Audi could break that a little bit later by being on the outside, but let's see, has he got it clear? No, he hasn't. It's still there. Well, Philippe Salicardo cutting him no change at all, and now we would think down the inside into Pouhon. Maxime Soulet needs a bit more grunt. Rain coming into Pouhon. Get out of the throttle, because this is going to be a slippery racetrack, and that's where the rain all of a sudden has just descended on the racetrack, catching out this group of cars. And so easy to just look through the windscreen and ignore what actually is the story. So down, coming to the lowest part of the racetrack, the middle of the circuit. But it was the run into Pouhon that rain started just to fall, very localized and very easy to be caught out. Almost the 75 Audi getting caught out. I'm sure Maxime Soulet wouldn't have been unsympathetic about it, but so he again right up to the tail. And rain tyres are being readied, not that they are needed at the minute, but they're being readied in the event that the heavens do actually open. And when it rains, it tends to, it's deluge. And as it was absolute dump, just as the arrival of Pouhon. But all the corners you don't want to suddenly experience a wet track. Still bone dry in the pit lane. And Philippe Salicardo still in the way of Maxime Soulet, under braking. I don't think you'll see the Bentley managing to go past, but
Very tight indeed. No one, I think, will dive for the pits just yet, because certainly the track at this point is dry. But as always at Spa-Francorchamps, when the rain comes down, the second place Bentley having to think, he doesn't want to be in this traffic, doesn't want to be stuck behind Philippe Salakada. Salakada, 15th place overall, 3 laps down, but rain now at this end of the circuit as well. You can see them rounding La Source at the highest point on the circuit. Down past the main pits and now going past the secondary pits. One of the Mercedes is in from 14th place. That will therefore be... Just trying to work out which...
well, I mean,
time screens won't tell me exactly where it is. It says 14th.
Whatever it is in the pit lane, there's going to be a lot slippier going down into Eau Rouge with that situation where Maxime Soulet still struggling to get past the 75 Audi of Philippe Salakada. That car in 15th place, but it's in effect 2 laps down on the Bentley running in second place. So there it is, the Black Falcon Mercedes, the 56 car.
Danny Juncadella just getting out. But of course, this is a car we expected to see very much at the sharp end of the race. That too, like the 85 Mercedes, has had problems during the night.
This is of course a Pro-Am car with Oliver Morley as the AM in it. So just going about their work. Jack's down, engine fired up. There's a minimum amount of time you can do the job. Anything under 2 minutes 15 seconds you have to wait. So the 98 BMW still struggling to find a way to get on terms with the 75 Audi. Has he managed to get clear, but I can't quite see where the Audi is now, or else it's way up the road. But in the meantime, the 98 BMW, Nicky Katzberg, still in 6th place. Where has Philippe Salakada in the 75 Audi disappeared to? He's in 15th place, we know that, but where is he on the racetrack? Because that was
he's vaporized.
Well, that was the Audi that was causing Nicky Katzberg all the difficulty. Oh, and there you see the track, that little bit of rain. It may not be raining now, but there's still a small residue, and he turned and the whole car slipped. So
and he would have
keep your wits about you, Bruce.
He would have expected the rain to be there, because that's where it came down last lap. We saw it suddenly heavily on his windscreen, and then it's dropped away.
Yeah, but if there's no rain on the windscreen, you assume that the track's dry, but that's an assumption that was maybe a little bit ambitious, because there was still a little bit of moisture there, just enough that on that turn in the BMW slid, he got it corrected. And there is the 57 Mercedes Adam Christodoulou. Now he's given the Bratislava Lamborghini a bit of a talking to, up into Blanchimont, gets through cleanly up the inside. No delay for the Mercedes. The BMW, of course, that was being the chasing car of that group, has fallen quite a long way behind, largely because it got caught behind the 75 Audi of Philippe Salakada.
Just looking as an indication as to how much the cars had to slow for that little flurry of rain. The quick guys were lapping the 2-minute 22s, 23s, the very quickest in the 2 minutes 20s about half an hour ago. Front runner 2 minutes 27s, 2 minutes 25s. It will speed up again. The rain has certainly, it was just a quick pass by, but just something to keep the drivers on their toes. And we saw Nicky Katzberg very much having to be on top of his game there to catch the car half a lap ago at Pouhon. That shot, the high shot looking down over the Heritage pit, suggests that there could be some more rain on the way. But certainly if you look at an onboard shot now, I think as one of the Bentley, the Team Parker Racing, number 30 Bentley making its way with the duct tape out for a tour of the track, and hopefully a lot more. Derek Pierce, of course, was beside himself after a rather strange incident when he went off in the second part of Les Combes last night. The car just simply didn't seem to want to turn left, nosed into the barrier, and did damage and dropped the car way down the order. There's been further damage since. Great lumps of rubber bouncing around at the braking point, well, beyond the braking point, the turning in point for Les Combes. But the 98 BMW still going very well indeed, but it's the second place of the BMW, 6th place overall, because the sister car with Philippe Eng at the wheel is leading by the next closest thing to a minute from Maxime Soulet's Bentley, 59 seconds last time around.
Yes, and remember the Bentley had to make that drive through for yet again over 65 minutes period behind the wheel. So that's the second time we've seen that penalty applied to the Bentley team, the M Sport team. So we're watching the BMW. Again, wipers going, so rain would appear to be falling there. You can see on the camera lens confirmation as you come down into Eau Rouge that it's not falling at such a rate that the track is going to be wet, but it just changes the grip level from what you have in dry conditions to just a very, very fine, it's like a scumminess on the surface.
And it puts that, particularly the fact it can blow in, it can blow out at Spa-Francorchamps, it puts that element of doubt into a driver's mind, particularly if they're about to make an overtaking manoeuvre and they think, oh gosh, it looks like it's a little bit wet up ahead. what will they find? But for Philippe Eng, he seems to have a fairly clear track ahead of him. Out of La Source, yes, there's a light drizzle. We could sort of pick that out when we saw the high shot looking over the Heritage pits. Lift off the throttle, up over the top at Raidillon. We certainly see some cars hitting that curb on the left, going almost 4 wheels off. Barrier damage, you can see it on the left.
All cars lights on.
Now.
Track is wet, all cars lights on.
Okay, nice direction from Race Director there. All cars lights on. Just as we thought it was getting light for the morning, they have to put it back on because it's darkening up again. The skies are getting grey at Spa.
Something's gone on at Team Nissan. Bob Neville, team manager of that 23 car, has been summoned to race control immediately. It most likely will be some infringement in the pit lane. There we got 3 Mercedes all together. There's the 84 car, which has got, at the minute, Jasmine Jafar, and that car currently is in 10th place. So 3 Mercedes, all, they're not racing one another, but at different points of the race, but happen just to come together. So down the hill into Pujo, the rain there appears to have cleared through. It's either moved up the valley, up towards the pits, Eau Rouge area, La Source, but the race director advising everybody that it is wet track conditions. Consequently, headlights go back on again. A lot of the cars, in fact, had not switched their headlights off. Those that had done so a little earlier, I've got to put them back on again. Part one of the mandatory requirements in what is described as a wet track. I mean, look at it, where's it wet? But there has been rain falling, so it's a safety issue, and rather than leaving it arbitrarily to teams to work out for themselves. So let's have a look and see as we climb up the hill into Blanchimont.
Little drops of rain, but it's blue sky in the distance. You look past La Source up in the distance. Here we come up to the bus stop, and now it's spitting a little harder up here. Out of our window, all of 200 metres further up the track, it doesn't appear to be spitting at all, but certainly the windscreen...
Oh, the Ferrari goes round, and the Jaguar, or the Mercedes, Jasmine Jafar did that. I don't know whether they touched the Ferrari or not, but all of a sudden, the 333 car just rotated in the change of direction from right to left, and the blue Mercedes was literally, watch again and see, almost no time whatsoever, and the 56 car just about manages to sneak. Wow, did he manage not to hit it?
Well, I think he did, but that was an absolute full stop for him, and the two behind did very well. There's a nice little area of tarmac on the outside of the circuit there, so you can get by, but look at it from the replay, seen from 2 cars back, everything under control, but then suddenly for Pierre Ere, the German racer, round goes the tail, the second part of the bus stop, and the 56 Mercedes had to absolutely stop on a sixpence.
Well, I mean, that's good driving, because the Ferrari came round very quickly, and it was, the trajectory of the car was going exactly where the Mercedes would like to have gone. So back up to the top of the circuit. This is the highest point of the circuit, the 84 car, Jasmine Jafar. Audi running slowly, coming down the hill, and that's Ian Catter and Clay as it's
6th place in class. That makes it, yeah. I'm just trying to work out who that might be. It's not the Kessel Racing, because of course the positions will be changing as it limps its way back.
Well, it's the 27, it's the AM Audi, so that car coming back almost on limp home. Saint-Loc Racing, Michael Bolenquemont and Gilles Lamennais, Valentin Haas Clos, and Jean-Paul Boffin. So that looks like it's on limp home mode.
Well, it was running last, that's in the AM class, and down in 56th position. So will it get
99?
Oh, 99, our race leader off the circuit very briefly at the bus stop. So conditions, and you can see Philippe Eng still really trying to adjust the car to get the power down and not have the tail come
again,
out.
Just must be that a little bit of moisture there that's just difficult to read in the racetrack. And again, because we've got this sort of similar coloured sky, let's look and see as he comes up under brakes and he's having to work the steering. And again, you can see he just didn't have the ability to slow the car down. And that is the consequence of having the smallest amount of moisture compared to maybe the last time he came through. Just a little wake-up call for the lead 99 BMW.
So we're sitting on a lead of, last time we commented it was 59 seconds. It might have lost a second or two, but exactly as you say, John, a wake-up call. So the 99 BMW still leading the race, still a tidy lead. Number 8 Bentley in 2nd place, and Marcus Winkelhock 3rd for Audi, number 6 car. We're just waiting to find out if that's the final car to make its mandatory 5-minute pit stop. It's technical pit stop they all are required to make here at Spa-Francorchamps. But we'll give you news of that when we get it from the pit lane. Nico Müller, a lap down, is 4th for Audi. We've seen quite a lot recently of the 57 Mercedes of Adam Christodoulou. That's the best place of those, and the 98 BMW giving chase, but losing ground a bit. 6 seconds back in 6th place now. So Christodoulou getting the better of the BMW in that battle. Maxi Götz, 7th place overall. The second of the Mercedes, the number 86 car. And then you go to the number 88 crew. Another Mercedes, that's the better of the two ACA ASP entries. That's their quicker car, Tristan Vautier, Renger van der Zande, and Felix Rosenqvist. Rosenqvist, fresh from his first IndyCar test, has been racing. Finally, at his 3rd attempt, won the Euro F3 Championship last year, racing Indy Lights with some success in the States. Now he's had his first taste of IndyCar testing and very much enjoyed it. Yeah, and I think the top 10 though, John, I'll just, carry on down. 9th and 10th, Michele Rugolo, the 50 Ferrari, and Jasmin Jafar making it another Mercedes in the top 10.
I'm just going to say that Felix Rosenqvist, I mean, he's done his test in Indy, impressed the team big time. Such a versatile and talented young man, and we've seen already through the season his abilities in the AMG GT3 Mercedes-Benz, and jumping in and out of single-seaters, high downforce, high-performance cars. So to do that and be always in the top of the game in any of those 3 specific categories takes a great deal of ability.
Graphic on screen, just to change subject for a second. We wondered whether the number 6 Audi has done its 5 minutes mandatory pit stop. I think you certainly have to suggest it has. 41 minutes at standstill in its pit garage. The race leading BMW 37 minutes. So I think that might ask the question I just raised a few minutes ago, John. Teams all have to do that and do their brake change. There is the number 6 Phoenix crew, Markus Winkelhock. He seems to be in the car almost the whole time, the number 6 crew. Every time I look at the screen, he's doing the driving. 7th place, the number 7 Bentley just saw ahead of it on the track. Unfortunately for Guy Smith and crew, they're down in 30th position overall.
That's 7 laps down. Interesting, the 5th and 6th place battle that we've been watching with the Mercedes and the BMW. Both pitted at the same lap. So Simonsen gets into the Mercedes, and it'll be Stef Dusseldorp into the BMW. So there shouldn't be an awful lot to pick and choose between those two teams. Drive-through penalty for car 23 for track limits. That was the reason why Bob Neville was obviously summoned up to see the race director.
He couldn't persuade them otherwise, so the penalty will be served.
You've got the opportunity to argue it and see what they say, but...
So there's Stef Dusseldorp leaving the pits. And when we compared the McLaren and BMW pit stops, the McLaren seemed to be slightly quicker, but Dusseldorp out, and more rain on the camera at Raidillon.
Yeah, and that's always the one part of the racetrack you don't want to come across moisture on the surface, particularly if the rest of the racetrack is relatively dry.
And another factor there, of course, if you do that, and you come out just onto a wet track from the pit lane, someone's coming out from the pit lane, you're trying to dice with another car as we lose ground. Number 7, still limping its way back.
Yeah, it's on.
Poor old number 27 on the starter motor by looks things.
Yeah, it's limp mode. I mean, it's coming up now to the final 2 corners. It's taken, what, 5-8 minutes to get from where we saw it originally to where it is now. There is the 6 Audi Markus Winkelhock, who is ahead on the road of the 98 BMW. So he is a lap ahead of that car, so he wants to get through and continue his progress to try and do something. He's running, what, 12.6 seconds behind the number 8 Bentley in second place, so he's in a hurry.
Now, ACA ASP, that's the 88 Mercedes having a driver change. One thing I do want to know is what exactly was the delay for the number 7 Bentley? It was running well up pretty much the two-thirds point in the race. We saw some shots of Guy Smith, Stephen Kane looking a bit long-faced in the garage, but they've tumbled out of the top 10 down to 30th position. It'd be great to have an interview down there.
There was clearly, there was clearly an issue with the car because it was back in the garage up on the axle stands. Work carried out underneath the car, not just we thought it was going to be a simple, disc pad change. There was something under the car, maybe around where the transmission area of the car is, something that the engineers had to get under the car to see if they could address. So that's the reason, but we don't know what the specific cause or what the specific issue was.
So it looks like a nice standard pit stop for the 88 crew from ACA ASP. That's your own Polycons team, Autosport Promotion. Is that a broken?
It is.
Me.
I've never seen that happen. Now, these guns get tossed around, but that gun has been destroyed. Just literally, it just, you know, it's just the neck of the gun has just broken. I mean, how often have you seen? I can't remember seeing that before. So that gun now redundant.
Well, you hope that the wheel change was completed. Maybe it tried to carry on turning after it had reached its conclusion. I think now he's holding his fingers up. That's Jerome Policon in the heart of the battle there, looking quite long of face. But that is a really weird one. The air
that
gun
looks
shattering.
to me, yeah, I would assume. Let's
take a look. All standard so far. Wheel off.
So where's the wheel gun? There's the gun. Now watch and see. Let's look and see. The gun looks normal at this stage. It goes on. Oh, it does. It shears off at the point where the nut would be being. So here's another gun. The guy's looking for it, so they go get another go at it. So the nut is now locked up in position.
Well,
but
that's
the gun,
good news.
Now there's been a flaw in that gun. There's something has been in manufacture, or maybe it's been damaged at some other time. But just at the point where the torque of the nut was coming up to its maximum, it just sheared. Never seen that.
No, I was also very impressed how quickly the replacement air gun was there, the wheel gun. So the crew were thinking on their feet. That is a very unusual one, but for the 88 crew back into the race.
Again, rain just coming into Eau Rouge, and that'll continue up through the top of Radion. So on board the Bentley, fighting its way through. Mercedes on the left. An idea ahead of Ferrari, ahead of that. The Porsche, of course, isn't going to be a particular problem, but the number 8 car will once again clear the Ferrari. Or the Mercedes, is that the 84 car or not? 85, that might be the 85 Mercedes.
Sorry, and just to clarify, that was not the 88 car, it was the sister car, the 89 car. So let's hear a bit of Bentley news. And just another drive through. And let's find out what Andy Soucek thinks about life. The number 8 Bentley in second place.
Andy, catch me up a little bit. You've had another drive through yet again. What's going on?
Well, it's difficult to see from the outside, but obviously they have the numbers and they work on them. But apparently what happened is that Wolfgang Raab was due to pit, and he had a Porsche in front of him, which was sideways, and he decided not to take the pit lane because it was actually blocked. And that meant he was over his driving time. But I think security is the first thing, so, well, we need to cope with the decision of the stewards. This is, I think, our 4th penalty because of driving time and some pit stop infringement. We clearly have the pace and we should be leading, but this is a 24-hour race and anything can happen. We still have, how much, 7.5 hours to go, so it's like 2 endurance races in one go.
So do you have any strategy for later in the race? How are you going to keep this pace up?
Strategy is to push as much as we can and try and catch the BMW in front of us.
Well, good luck and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think, Andy Soucek is just doing the best he can to explain what happened. We did see the incident a little bit, yes, we did see it earlier. We're going to have another look at it. And I would say there's a little bit of naivety in the part of Wolfgang Raab. If he knows he's coming in and he goes up and passes a car on the outside, that car is still going to be there. So if he wants to cut across to the right, where's that car going to go? So I think it was a little bit of, could have done better in that situation instead of putting himself into the position where then he found he couldn't turn across because the car that he'd overtaken coming into the final 2 turns was there.
Exactly so. Yes, you could say he could have then turned further right to get round, but his mistake was going around the outside and realising it suddenly became a very bad option for 58 McLaren. They've got one of the best pit garages. And looks like drops of rain on the camera there as well. Pit exit of the Heritage pit, but the 58 McLaren way down the order. Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly so. When you just think about conditions on there, you're waiting to come into the pit lane, and you just got to pick your moment. And thank you, John. You're quite right there that he should have guessed a little bit better.
I mean, obviously coming up the hill, he thought he would clear the Porsche, but as it turns out, he didn't. But the consequence of that was that he couldn't cut across to get into the pit lane. There you see again rain on the lenses of the cameras up at top of Radion. Lamborghini running wide and off the racetrack.
Now, the car that's just come out, John, is the number 1 Audi that was going really well yesterday evening. Frederick Vervisch in particular having a great run.
Down in 31st now. That's a big change. So, again, issues that we're trying to keep in touch with. It's the number 1 car. Yeah, a great driver lineup on that. Will Stevens, Dries van Thor, Frederick Vervisch. Well, funny, there was a situation last night just before we went off air and Andrew Marriott and Neville Hay took over when we saw Will Stevens in the car, and it appeared he only did one stint. And remember earlier when Dakota Jane was interviewing Dries van Thor in the pit lane, and she sort of asked him when would he be back in the car, and he said, oh, about midnight. And then all of a sudden in the car at 11 o'clock. And I've seen WRT do this. They did it a year ago with Stefano Ortelli when he wasn't able to run at the pace. Look at the 7 Bentley coming up. And that's, almost trying to get inside the 98 Bentley. The 7 Bentley slightly further down. Just to see where, far down is the 7 Bentley. It's down in 30th place. So Guy Smith trying to get past the 98 BMW, which got Steph Dusseldorf. That car currently showing in 10th, but they're laps apart on the racetrack.
You can see a pit stop looking through the windscreen of the number 8 Bentley. He wants to fire it up, but being told absolutely do not do so. We have a time. We have to be stationary in the pit lane, and the seconds count down, and now they can go. So the M Sport mechanic waves him underway. That was Maxime Soulet who brought it in. Let's hope no more driver penalties and team penalties for the number 8 crew. They've had more than their fair share, as Andy Soucek explained to us.
Well, again, the other thing, of course, was for Wolfgang Reip. It was at night time when the incident occurred. Now, back into daylight, it's a lot easier to make your assessments and judgments of a situation. If that was to arise in daylight, would have been probably handled better by the Belgian driver, Wolfgang Reip.
Yeah, a few little moments, they all add up. Didn't come in, we had the spin up at La Source, but still the number 8 Bentley, well, it came in from second place for that pit stop. I think it would be back behind the number 6 Audi by the time it rejoined. So at the moment, if you're a BMW fan, is BMW heading for its record 23rd win of the Spa 24 Hours. Way out clear. The next most successful manufacturer is Alfa Romeo. They're not represented in the race here. Their 7 wins came very much at the start of this race nearly a century ago at Spa-Francorchamps. Lots of the early victories to the Italian mark. On 6 wins each, Ford and Porsche. Porsche not looking as though they're going to be able to take anything out of this race. Of course, their entries are in the AM and Pro-Am classes, but right now it's Bentley against BMW at the head of the field, and Audi playing catch-up.
And the car that's also playing catch-up is the 28 Audi, currently in 4th place, Nico Müller behind the wheel, and that's ahead of the first of the Mercedes, which is Maximilian Goetz, and they are would appear to be a lap apart on the track. Then further behind you've got the 88 Mercedes-Benz, and that's the ACA ASP with Vautier van der Zande and our little Swedish friend Felix Rosenqvist.
Yeah, that's luckily was, I got slightly confused moments ago. I thought that was the car that had the problem with the wheel gun. It was the sister car, the 89 car, that had the problem. Didn't delay the car a great deal, but would lead to a lot of head scratching in the garage. But our race leader, Philippe Eng, I think he owes us a pit stop fairly soon in the pits, number 40 crew.
Well, not too much energy with that pit stop change now. It looks to me like there might be a further issue with the car. So it's looking at the right front. Yeah, they're doing a brake change on that car. So somebody working away, releasing the caliper to get the disc off. I'm assuming that's what they're doing. We just saw somebody down there with the spanners. So there is the 99 car into the pits, lead car. Philippe Eng comes in on lap 366, and he's got an advantage over the second place, which will now be the first place, number 6 Audi of Markus Winkelhock.
And there's Maxime Martin waiting to take over. Belgian driver on home ground. So many successes for BMW. Oh, well, you do have to do changes when you've had someone rub the side of the car like that, yeah, but they can't get it off.
What he's trying to do is take the disc off without taking the pads out. So he's got the pads, and they're almost like the pads have gone too far in, which they shouldn't be able to do. So it's a bit of a mess on the right front of that Ferrari.
That's the point at which the mechanic suddenly realised he's been up all night and he's tired and just hasn't gone right. And BMW, though, is very much going right.
Yeah, and of course the engineer down in the Ferrari just wishes the cameraman would disappear. Yes, please go away.
Yes, it's good when we were going well. Go away now. Yes, but it's the cameraman's job to get right in there and show us the action. They're doing a great job.
Alexander Sims getting in behind the wheel of the lead BMW as Markus Winkelhock comes up and across the line, and that will put him into the lead because the BMW is still in the pit lane.
Yeah, sudden shuffling the 6 Audi towards the front end there. Markus Winkelhock, Maxime Martin just taking over the number 99 BMW. Doors closed, but of course you can take a fairly leisurely run through your pit stops.
just for example, is the Audi a lap down, or was it on the same lap as the BMW? I was on the same lap, I would assume. But
yeah, I think so.
So there, the BMW rolling down the pits. There's the Audi, Markus Winkelhock. So currently we're still seeing timing and scoring saying that the BMW is in the lead. Once we go through this lap and it recycles, I'm assuming that we'll then see that the Audi has taken over the lead. And of course, what will be more key will be what is currently the second or third place Bentley, the number 8 Bentley, which is a lap down on that lead car. Where will that be in relation to when the BMW rejoins, and where will that be in relation to where the Audi is?
Well, we can see the BMW going slowly. Very frustrating for the drivers, but they have not one but 2 pit lanes to contend with. This is the second pit lane, and waiting to release the throttle is the 99 BMW. Can't do it yet. Has to go past the McLaren crew, who should be at the exit, and Garage 59 crew. There is the white line, and now the driver can release the power. And of course, we saw the sister car getting it wrong, going over the white line after he comes around this corner at Eau Rouge. Just here was where we saw the.
Well, we saw the Bentley do it.
It was the Bentley, sorry, not the sister car.
It was the number 8 Bentley that did it. Maxime Soulet did it. Nothing seems to have been carried further from doing so.
So Maxime Martin, a clean run onto the track, managed not to clatter into the cars that were proceeding past at full speed. So down into second place, you're quite right. The number 6 Audi has taken the lead of the race again, but in turn will have to come and make a pit stop. 16 pit stops for the number 9. Well, pit stops and pit visits for the. He's now down to third place, so there the order has changed again. That's the Bentley in third. So the order has rotated around during that pit stop sequence. So it's now Martin still listed at the top of the screens, but we think Winkelhock went through during that pit stop, waiting for that to reassess on the screens when they scramble. Should be Audi from BMW and Bentley in third place. Looking at the third place, Bentley number 8, and it's Maxime Soulet roaring up the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, the rain that had been falling down in Eau Rouge appears to have moved away, so it gives Maxime Soulet the full confidence to launch the Bentley into Eau Rouge up over the top, and then up onto the long Kemmel Straight. No obvious sort of delays, traffic ahead of him, so that'll give him a chance to get the hammer down. Last lap was a 2:22.9, and well, in fact, Markus Winkelhock, who took the lead, is now himself in the pit lane, so the lead will revert back to the 99 BMW with Maxime Martin behind the wheel.
And it was worth pointing out, before that pit stop, the 99 BMW was leading by just under a minute. It was just 59, 57 seconds there about. But the Bentley now having a good run, giving chase. Wait until they start putting down some quick laps again. I think the track has dried out. We saw them come about 3 or 4 seconds off the pace half an hour ago. 99 though in the thick of the traffic, going inside the 52 AF Corsa Ferrari very tidily at the top of the hill at Les Cons.
4th, 5th and 6th have all come into the pit lane, so that was the 28 car, the Audi of Nico Müller. Oh, and look at the state of it. How did they get it parked like that? Oh, apparently a Lamborghini that is, was blocking the entry into the for the number 6, so doesn't make it particularly easy for the Audi, the WRT engineers. But you see, they've already created another slot, so if the pits are blocked, they've got that attention to detail.
Quite
attention
astonishing.
to detail. There you are. Rain again on the lens. It's coming up the hill.
That is an exceptional. I'm just looking at that line. I thought he's even parallel with that diagonal line. You're so on. If one of the sister cars is in the next garage, Team WRT have got that sorted out. But of course, in fact, that was the neighbouring garage just along from Team WRT is where Phoenix parked. They're right alongside. They thought of another element, and other crew chiefs will be looking at that on the screen and going, aha, well, we have to do that.
I mean, if you're up on these, what I would call the Grand Prix pits, there's a lot more space, and of course, any of the Audi team have got a bigger sort of slot within this block of pits than any others. So, but even though that is the case, they were able to use that little bit of thinking. Again, the rain beginning to fall just at Raidillon as we see the Audi return to the circuit.
Drive-through penalty car 10 track limits. Drive-through penalty car 10 track limits.
Ombre Racing Lamborghini track limits. Well, they've got a bit more excuse in the rain. You might slip a little bit wide, but for the number 10 crew in their Lamborghini, well, that is another setback.
He's got to have done it probably minimally 4 times to get a drive-through. So it's not been just one lap where you might have been caught by a part of the track that's suddenly become a little bit slipperier. That's consistent. abuse of track limits. Again, just as we come down into Bruxelles, seeing some of the cars just giving the windscreen a quick wipe. Really, the amount of debris that you get on a racetrack that hits your windscreen, you want to not use your wipers where possible, because all it does is give you a big smear across the windscreen and probably make the vision worse. But in the case of the Audi, just out of the pits, it's got a lovely clear windscreen. Part of the duty of the team is to clean the windscreen. Many of the teams are running with rip-offs or tear-offs on the windscreen. It's a very fine, thin plastic. They've got maybe up to 3 or 4, and they take them off sequentially. And it's just wonderful, the difference. When you take that off, you've got clear vision. It's like suddenly you had terrible eyesight and you get glasses or contact lenses and you can suddenly see again.
And particularly if you're having tired eyes after a night, of course, with a 4-driver crew, that can clear out.
This car, the 99 car, Maxime Martin, back behind the wheel, new tyres, full of fuel, but right on it, doing 2 minute 21.8. Markus Winkelhock, who was in second place, now it's the Bentley up into second place. Oh, Maxime Soula, how rude of you to do a 2:19.9 at this stage of the race. He is flying.
He's 0.08 of a second slower than that car's best lap that was set very early on, lap 58. Some of the other cars have been setting their best laps around the lap 340 mark, just before the flurry of rain. But Maxime Soula, he's plugged in, he's turned on, he's going for it. He's got to get that gap down to the car ahead of him, and he's doing exactly the right thing, pressing on in the early hours.
Well, we have always looked to Stephen Kane in the 7 Bentley to be the go-to guy in the Bentley team to get the job done. But I have to say, I think Stephen Kane has met his match with Maxime Soula, because on the number 8 car, he has been absolutely on it every time you see him. I remember in Silverstone, he benefited from a new set of tyres from that last stint, but did he ever make good use of them and drag that car up into a podium position?
And how fast is Soula going to do this lap? Well, the first sector time, not his best, but clearly right on it. And the track has really sped up. A number of drivers lapping 2 minutes 21s on our screen, a couple of 2 minute 22s. So, yeah, quickening up again. But yet, every time we see the camera lens at Raidillon, maybe there's not a big enough cover over it, but it still has drops of rain on the lens. Great view of the twisting part of the circuit. Well, which is the twisting part of the circuit. There are so many around the circuit. But now, down after that pit stop shuffle, the number 6 Audi crew with that lovely bit of diagonal parking. Markus Winkelhock still on board, back out on the track. This is his first flying lap since the pit stop.
There's the 28 car, René Rast. Oh, that's the 6 car, I beg your pardon. The 28 car in 4th place. René Rast, once again behind the wheel, 1 lap down on the top 3 cars. Jazeman Jaafar has into the pits in the 84 Mercedes. And let's see, the 57 Mercedes of Andreas Simonsen in 6th place. 7th place is the BMW. And everybody else, 8th, 9th and 10th, dropped down. So, and the Ferrari actually, Alessandro Pierguidi is back into 10th place, having dropped positions. Just again, this overlap of pits in, pits out. So there is the 28 Audi with René Rast, and he was the driver behind the wheel when the car got tagged way early in the race, in the first bit of darkness down at Fagnes, and he was a passenger in a sense. The left rear of that car starting to show that, you know, the tape that's holding a lot of it in place. Principally, it's got to have the lights both in place, but have lights that are operational at the rear of the car. But this might need a bit of attention next time it comes in.
Yeah, but this is the car with that tattered bodywork that set the fastest lap of the race so far, with Laurens Vanthoor early this morning in the small hours, a 2 minute 18.793. René Rast was a passenger twice, because don't forget, at the first restart after the first full course yellow, he didn't seem to have any power coming down from La Source, and had Mirko Bortolotti slot past him into the lead, pushed him down into 3rd place as well, because the number 50 Ferrari went by as well. Still got to the foot of what exactly went wrong. I don't suppose he hit a switch, but something was amiss.
It looked as he came off the speed limit button that it either didn't disengage, or for some reason maybe he was in the wrong gear. By that I mean 5th gear rather than in 2nd gear, not what he was wearing. So I don't know, strange, you know, one of those situations that we saw what the effect of it was, but once he got out of Radia and onto Comel Straight, then the car picked up speed again. It looked to be totally normal.
Yeah, well, he may have got to the foot of what happened. The fact is, he's a lap down, but René Rast is really starting to put on a charge. A lot of quick laps being dropped in now. That little flurry of rain doesn't seem to deter them. The top 4 all lapping in the 2-minute 20-second category last time around.
I have to say, I'm delighted at the minute to see the lead Pro-Am car. What is that car? It is a Porsche, and it's driven by factory Porsche driver Patrick Pilet, 17th. It's not very much further ahead of the 74 Audi, which I think at the minute has probably got Nicolas Lapierre.
It has.
So Nicolas Lapierre is pretty useful. Again, another great journeyman driver in many respects. Great single-seater driver. I remember him in A1GP days, doing a lot of LMP1 and LMP2 work subsequently, and also in GT. So that's going to keep Patrick Pilet very, very honest indeed. And you know, we don't see enough Porsche in the Blancpain GT Sprint and Endurance Series, but to see one presently, it may not be there come the end of the race. There's still a little over 7 hours of the race remaining, but to be leading the Pro-Am category at this phase, happy days.
Happy days indeed, and to a very, very strong driver crew. And for Raymond Narak, who's been pushing that team for a very long time, always out at Le Mans for the past decade or so. IMSA Performance, great to have them here. Also refreshing to see a new livery on the car, that Kodak livery. Seen Matt Mutt livery over the years, but looks great.
And another great performance in the Pro-Am category is the 666 Lamborghini. That's the Barwell Lamborghini. And it's got John Minshaw behind the wheelies. He is essentially the AM, the true AM of that 4-car driver lineup. Phil Keane got the car a good start, did a great job. Joe Osborne likewise, and then Oliver Gavin. I'm just curious to see how Oliver is enjoying a 24-hour race of Spa-Francorchamps. He's done plenty of 24-hour races at Daytona, at Le Mans. I don't think he's ventured quite as far as the Nürburgring, but I could be wrong. So again, a car that's got a great professional lineup, and John Minshaw, probably more familiar to race fans for racing here at Spa in the historic 6-hour events that they hold. I think there may be one upcoming in the next month or so.
Yep, coming up in September, so just into September. So always a great event, but you'll get more driving time for sure in a 24-hour race and side by side. And the 98 not backing off at all. It's battled with the 85 Ferrari, of course, 85 Mercedes, but of course the Mercedes way down the order in 31st position, whereas in 6th place, you can see the number on the windscreen. Steph Dusseldorp has the right to go by, has done it. But again, one of the stories of the race is the fact that Mercedes were juggled out of sequence by the penalty they were given before the race. 6 of them having to do a 5-minute penalty time in the pits. They served it very much early on, end of lap 1 and lap 2, and alleviated some of that damage because the full course yellow had been thrown, and it meant the damage in terms of time lost in the pit wasn't as much as it could have been. They've been fighting their way up the order, but 85 has hit problems during the night and isn't the best place. The 86 car, however, is right there in the mix for Mercedes. Just lost a position, actually. Thomas Jaeger in the bright yellow car seems to be running okay, but lost a position on the last lap to Felix Rosenqvist, the 88 crew.
Right now we're watching an event which looks to be everything sort of settled in. We've got 7 hours and 10 minutes before the checkered flag will fall, but actually the battle for the lead between the BMW, Maxime Martin, and the Bentley of Maxime Soulet is 40 seconds. 40 seconds, and that's after what the best part of 17 or so hours, just under 17 hours of motor racing, and just 40 seconds. And remember, the BMW, the Bentley has had all these penalties. Imagine where it would be if it hadn't had all those penalties. So that's a story. I mean, if Bentley are unsuccessful in taking victory here, they're going to say, oh my goodness, if and or but.
Well,
you know,
it certainly gives a few excuses to be laid in
the
excuse book. Not
Bruce,
excuses.
No excuses. Those were things that were controllable. And that's the factor of being a professional race team, being a driver in a professional race team. You don't roll the dice or say, oh, I was unlucky, or that was bad luck. Everything has got a control element to it. And sadly, for whatever reason, we saw the one with Wolfgang Reip. I think that could have been handled better by Wolfgang Reip. That's my personal view. The first one seemingly was slightly different, where there was only an 8-second overrun. doesn't matter, 8 seconds, 5 seconds, shouldn't have happened. And it is that is going to ultimately maybe lead to BMW ending up a winner, or maybe it could be a Mercedes, it could even be an Audi with 7 hours with the race remaining. It's still a lot of motor racing to do, a lot more miles. We're on lap 373, so we're probably going to get another, in the next 7 hours, probably another 60 or 70 laps. So we're going to be in the mid-400s before this race comes to an end. And, you know, we're sitting here looking at the sort of overcast-ish kind of sky with the occasional bit of sprinkling of rain just to keep the drivers on their toes. As the 84 car comes through, who's behind the wheel is still Jazeman Jaafar. That car in 10th place, and it's 19 or so seconds behind the 9th place Ferrari, with Alessandro Pierguidi behind the wheel once again.
And last time around, Pierguidi in 9th place just set that car's fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 20.499 seconds, so going very well.
Yeah.
Another team, maybe not an excuse, but you can tender an excuse, but you've got to take the blame if it's your fault, and certainly for passing the Torres, there's no other option. He's got to put his hand up. I was the driver that delayed us by sticking the car in the gravel after about 3 hours of the race. 24-hour race, every little mistake can add up. You might be lucky and get some back if there's a full course yellow period thrown just when you've come into the pit lane. But for Pierguidi, he's got one thing on his mind, and that is catching Thomas Jaeger. A minute he has to gain to catch up.
Yeah, and another battle that's on the racetrack for 5th place is that between Andreas Simonsen in the 57 Mercedes and Stef Dusseldorp in the number 98 BMW. There's just a second behind those two cars on the same lap. A second between the Mercedes and the BMW, and that's a battle for that 5th place. And one would assume, looking at the lap times, well, there's a couple of tenths of a second here or there, not very much to pick and choose. There's the 84 Mercedes trying to follow its sister car through. It does, it gets through cleanly. The Lamborghini pulls over to the right and does the correct thing, and that's good driving from an AM or a Pro-Am car. When these quicker cars, the 00 coming through, the Black Falcon, Bernd Schneider, Maro Engel, Jelmer Berman, and that car, the 00 car, is in at 14th place, and it's it's Jelmer Berman behind the wheel.
And he knows those cars very well. There's our race leader, Maxime Martin, not long been in the car since the pit stop where he took it over from Philippe Eng, sitting on a very tidy lead, lapping consistently 2 minutes 20s, 2 minute 21. According to traffic, and just checking conditions out around the circuit. About half an hour ago, had a little flurry of rain, but certainly on the track at Raidillon there and Eau Rouge, it looks though it is dry. Again, the lights, the hand that flicks the lights gets very busy as back markers are asked to get out of the way, and certainly if you're leading the race, you want them making scram. Now, leading the AM class, the Pro-Am class is Pilet. He had a 13-second advantage over Nicolas Lapierre in the 74 Audi. It's down to 12 now, but as you can see, Pilet being slightly delayed in traffic there, doesn't want to pick his way past at piff paff or take a risk to do so. Just thought a bit of the front bodywork was up, flipping up.
I thought there's a little bit of the tail of the bodywork just around the. Maybe it's just the colour scheme. Well, it's the colour scheme of the sponsorship on the car, and very, very wide on the exit of the Paul Frere Courbe, and he's of course trying to make progress to get ahead of the Ferrari, but how close can you get coming into Blanchimont? You don't want to be any closer than that, otherwise you'll be... Oh, 184 has spun. Jazeman Jaafar has lost it coming up over the top of Radio, and that's a horrible place to be sideways on to all this traffic. He can do nothing. He's going to try and... Well, he's just stuck there. Has he stalled it? Has he lost the engine? He's got the car running. Hate to see a car in that situation. That is the scariest thing I've probably seen in this race to date.
Entirely so, and he must have been looking for marshals to give him the signal that all is clear, you've got to go. You don't want to be pushing your car across the track right into the line of the drivers who'll be unsighted as they come up out of Eau Rouge. 84 on the way. He just had a very quick lap, was in 10th place, trying to catch up with Alessandro Pierguidi. But how did it happen? All looks nice and plain out on the circuit. Waiting for a replay to come up very soon. Jazeman Jaafar, side by side with the 0-0.
Yes.
With Jelmer Berman.
Oh, unnecessary, utterly and totally unnecessary. Why were these two cars racing each other when they weren't actually directly involved in a battle for position? One was 10th, the other was in 14th place. Now that, Jazeman Jaafar, I don't know whether you felt it was your corner, and he bumps it into the wall. He was the car that was ahead. He might have thought that the 0-0 car, Jelmer Berman, would have conceded, but chose not to. and the victim was, and I suspect at the end of the day, Jazeman Jaafar can feel maybe justifiably annoyed at Hjalmar Berman for not giving ground, because he was the car ahead on the road, and now putting the car into jeopardy, having bumped it into the retaining wall on the inside. Hopefully that didn't do any damage to the rear wing. I think it was the actual bumper. So look again, Berman fractionally ahead, but at this point it's the car on the inside, the 84 car, and you know, both cars could have been in big trouble.
They could have both been in the tyre wall on the outside of the circuit there with no loss of imagination.
As the car then begins to roll back and the rear bumper hits the wall, and we get it from another angle there, the car spins and Hjalmar Berman cuts up the inside. Really, he was a passenger at that point. So the car rolls back. Does the rear wing, does it clear the wall? Oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I think that car, 84, needs to go back into the pits, because damage to a rear wing and to the rear wing mountings in the way that has happened needs to be attended to.
Well, he hasn't come into the pits because he completed the lap in just under 3 minutes and has carried on his way. So Jaafar, well, as the car pulled away, the wing didn't look loose. I had a look at it. There is Berman, who's been off, but he only had to run across the dirt and carry on. He was one party in that battle, but for Mercedes, it's been not the greatest of meetings for them, the problems before the start. But as the cars are working their way back towards the front, starting to fill the tail end of the top 10, you just don't want that to happen. Not the same team, but the same mark.
Yeah, again, I would have said, and maybe with hindsight and all the wisdom that goes with it, that the 0-0 car should have advised Hjalmar Berman that the 84 car, which is 4 places ahead on track and a lap ahead, is coming through. Let it go through. Now, they both chose to race into Eau Rouge. I've seen the same consequence in Group C cars. So
let's have a look under the car. Oh yeah, you can see the diffuser's been mangled a little bit, but the wing looks okay. Looks very full square.
Bruce, it's not the wing I'm concerned about. It's the wing mountings, because they will have been tweaked when that car hit. Now, you may not think you can see anything, but we don't know, and you know, I just don't feel in those circumstances you should take the chance. The wing is slightly on a tilt. It's slightly down on the left-hand side compared to the right-hand side. If I was the team manager of that car, I would want to bring it in and have a quick look at it. We've still got 7 hours of this race remaining. You may lose a position, but I would rather lose a position. You can see the damage also around the taillights. So there has been contact enough to damage the mounts, and I'm absolutely paranoid. So the whole thing is on the you-know-what, more so because of the bigger impact being on the right side of the rear of the car than the left. You can see the wing is slightly down on the left-hand side, slightly up on the right-hand side. But, you know, I hope the team were watching the replays. They've all got videos and TVs in their garages. So Jazeman Jaafar pounding away. He's still in 10th place.
But for all the teams, when you get a situation like that, you just hope that you get the cameras focused on your car. It gives you a chance to really assess the car. And so the TV director doing a great job with that bodywork. It's staying fairly firm, but yes, it is just dented on the right-hand side, but certainly the wing looks as though it's a few degrees out. It looks like it's leaning towards the driver's side by about maybe 5 degrees. Certainly, yeah, the left-hand end.
Yeah, it is damaged. And okay, these cars are built to last. I mean, it's not like a puppy just for Christmas. These things are built to last.
Well, 2:22 lap, but to the crew, definitely looking from the HTB Motorsport crew. And where is he in his pit cycle? Was he due to come in anywhere? Here's a replay of the situation. You've got 84 coming up.
This is another part of the racetrack.
To look at the wing. This isn't the
now look at the back. Bruce, look at the back. The boot lid dislodged. The lights on the right-hand side. The lenses are broken. I don't know about the bulbs are broken. You can see there that there is clearly the rear wing is up on the right-hand side. Are those mountings? Is that one on the left slightly more bent than the one on the right? I think it's worth a quick bring it in. Have a look at it. You know, if you lose one position, it's better than retiring because of a failure as a consequence. Again, the diffuser at the rear, that's not going to make a massive amount of difference to the car's safety, but I would just be very concerned. And you can see the guys talking about it, wondering, well, will we, won't we? Can we wait until a pit stop? How far are we away from a pit stop?
Well, Jazeman Jaafar still in 10th place, still lapping the 2:22s. But, as you say, the consequences, if it does suddenly weaken and go over to one side, will be rather longer than just bringing it in out of sequence. It's their call, it's not our call, luckily for them. but still lapping in 10th place overall, Yasemin Jaafar in the 84 Mercedes. But you're quite right, the most frightening moment of the race was Yasemin sitting sideways across the circuit over the crest at Raidillon, just at the point at which drivers are so wholly committed to their line they cannot change. The damage right now might look minor, but I think it's damage to 3 different parts of that car: the diffuser, the wing mounting, and you can sort of forget the light fitting. That doesn't matter so much.
Because you are required to have fully working tail lights, brake lights on your car. To get back to the battle at the front, Maxime Soulet pounding around as hard as he knows how. The gap was around 40 seconds, it's now 41 seconds, give or take a couple of seconds because of traffic. So the number 8 Bentley not making any inroads at all into Maxime Martin in that lead Mercedes. And we've got in 3rd place still the number 6 Audi of Marcus Winkelhock, the 28 Audi of René Rast, the 57 Mercedes of Andreas Simonsen, and then the 98 BMW of Stef Dusseldorf.
Right, we're seeing 84 in coming up, but just we're looking at the Audi number 26. That's running in 11th place. Christopher Haase, lights flashing. He's only 2.4 seconds down on Yasemin Jaafar. Maybe that's a focus for the Mercedes crew in keeping Jaafar out there, but a position on the circuit at least gained by Christopher Haase. 11th place overall. You can see the numbers on the windscreen. And giving chase to that slightly mangled Mercedes with Yasemin Jaafar at the way. 2 cars in the way, the Demon Tweets, Barwell Motorsport, Lamborghini is one of those, and Christopher Haase trying to thread his way between past the second of the ACA ASP Mercedes and the Lamborghini as he goes up and completes that move. Now he's got pretty much clear line of sight to the car just ahead of him. Yasemin Jaafar, way less than 2.4 seconds between them in this battle for 10th place. 10th and 11th coming down the hill. Right-hander, and then they'll get to Speaker's Corner where they arc left and go down towards Pouhon. But certainly Christopher Haase, an attacking drive, and lights ablaze for him as he tucks in behind in number 26 Audi.
Just outside the top 10, we got Pierre Caffer, who's just got ahead of the 16 Lamborghini of Inenaken and Rolf Inenaken. So that's, again, a change of track position. So the Lamborghini goes down 1 and the Audi up 1. And that's one of the few little battles that's been going on. Further down the field, the 23 Nissan has just got ahead of the 52 Ferrari. So Alex Buncombe has got ahead of Duncan Cameron, both in different categories. So Duncan Cameron not worried about where the Nissan is. He's more focused on the remaining, 5 cars ahead of him in that category. Still being led by Patrick Pilet and followed by Nicolas Lapierre. And that's only an 11.3 second gap now between the lead Porsche and the chasing Audi. So Lapierre is on the charge, and Porsche's last lap was 22.1. The Audi is slightly slower, 23.3. So again, nothing more than just the ebb and flow of traffic. So there we see the 84. Is that the 84 or 85? That's the 84 car, Yasemin Jaafar. Now, is the wing looking better, or is it just...
He's lapping more slowly. That was a 2:24 that time around. His previous was a 2:22. And we don't know what's going down at HTP. There's a change of place. HTP 84 pushed out of the way there. So Yasemin Jaafar loses a place. Christopher Haase puts his Audi ahead. So Santalot Racing gain a position. There they come down to Eau Rouge, coming pretty much to the scene of the crime, if we can label that. 3 laps ago, the 84 clashed with another Mercedes, the 00, and got away with it to an extent, but there is bodywork damage. How much it's slowing him, we do not know. The team are ready for him to come in this time around, but the Audi has jumped him on the circuit.
But just looking at the rear of the 84 car, the wing sort of looks like it's taken yet another set. I don't know whether it's just an optical illusion, but it doesn't look quite out of square as it was. It's just, maybe just the way we're looking at Maximilian Buch. Well, there's a face. There's a face telling us a story. And we went down. Dakota Jane, who normally can charm the birds out of a tree, couldn't charm Maximilian Buch to do an interview. He's absolutely choked with the fact that the car that he's worked so hard, as has, in fairness, all 3 drivers in the 84 Mercedes-Benz, Yasemin Jaafar, Dominic Baumann, and of course Maximilian Buch. So not prepared to make any observation, comment, criticism, or blame
He might be prepared to
drive through car 58, not respecting track limit.
We just
drive through 58.
Another drive through car 58. It's not the race for Garage 59 McLaren crew. They were way down the order after problems. We saw a great pace in them in the early few hours of the race, but a drive through penalty for them. But I think for all the Mercedes crew,
surprisingly,
Rob Bell at the wheel. But for all the Mercedes crew, they knew it was a long hunt. Any setback was going to really affect them so much. But I think once you've been going for hour after hour, just creeping away up the order, and you get something like that, I think it's harder to get your head around than if you were in a straight racing experience.
The two cars were a lap apart. The 84 car felt justifiable in trying to take the position. And you've got the 00 car, Hjalmar Berman behind the wheel. He's a racer. Somebody should have controlled that situation. The 00 car being run by Black Falcon, the 84 car by HTP. Okay, they're all the same family. There might be, you know, cousins with 6 fingers and 6 toes, but they're all members of the same family, and they should have had communication, or something should have been communicated to both drivers. The fundamental is you don't take your teammate out, but you don't take your team, you know, your cousins out, put it that way.
Entirely so, and it's not as though the 00 and the 84 suddenly got together. They'd been lapping at very similar place. Now here's a passing manoeuvre. Finally will BMW get that 5th place from Mercedes, and it looks like it's going to happen as well. Well, it's happened long before, so a much clearer run there.
Yeah, a good
Simonsen
run.
Had no answers to Seth Dusseldorp, who doesn't ask for answers. He will be trying to come past Cobalt Mesa. Very positive driving from him early on. He now wants to put that Lamborghini from Temto Racing between he and the car he's just passed. So Mercedes, the best placed Mercedes, it was 5th. It's now 6th.
Yeah, I mean, that was an easy pass for Seth Dusseldorp. He did it again all the way through Eau Rouge over Radio. He got the run. Maybe the Mercedes got slightly bogged down with some of the cars that he's now finally made his way through, but that's the momentum that you can sometimes build, and that's what being a racing driver is. It's thinking forward, not looking at the rear wing of the car directly ahead of you. You know where that is, but you have to think all the way up to the entry into Les Combes. Can I get the job done? And it's not rocket science, you know, being a racing driver. It's just using, you know, they've all got a brain, and some of them got bigger brains than others, and just make sure you use it. Here we see it again. So he gets a much better run through Radio, up behind the BMW. The Mercedes is looking forward to where the Lamborghini's going to go. The Lamborghini goes from right to left. So it's actually a Dusseldorp who's going to be slightly wrong-footed, but he has the momentum and then can take the centre ground and effectively cut out the entry into Les Combes for the Mercedes-Benz. And Andreas Simonsen sort of caught bang to rights in that one.
Well, he certainly was, and in fact it was all encapsulated in just how much the difference in momentum was as they came out of Eau Rouge and crested the crown. We've just heard news, they won't tell us directly, but HTP have said their car, they're not going to say something on camera, but they've told us that their car is running
satisfied with it
suitably well, so they're leaving Yasmin out, and they'll get the birch stick to beat him with when he arrives back in the garage.
Yes, and as I say, when you're family, which is what the 00 car was, part of the Mercedes family.
888.
Triple E
not respecting
track limits.
Well, that's track limits, but it's second in the AM class and has been trying to catch up with the number 51 AF Corsa Ferrari that's leading AM, so that's a setback. And Liam Talbot, as you said, John, it's not one fall, it's 4 falls before you get the warning. And there from 6th place, we had the pass, and it was the lap before they came into the pits, so checking all is all right. That's Andreas Simonsen on board. Yeah, no, the driver, they're forcing him to stay in the car. He's not long been in that car since Adam Christodoulou did his stint, but the way with which he was passed, maybe he just had a signal saying you're coming in next lap. That took his mind off it, but he was not that quick going onto the Kemmel Straight and paid the price.
I mean, he didn't have the speed over Radio, and you could see the difference between the Mercedes and BMW, and that gave Seth Dusseldorp the opportunity just to use that additional exit speed plus a little bit of the aero from the Mercedes to get alongside, and most importantly to get his nose ahead as he came up the straight, and therefore was able to take control of that battle for what was 5th and 6th places. We look at the 88 Mercedes, currently in 7th place, so it's battling its way up. It's got Nadia to go, and no traffic, messy looking.
Slow McLaren, number 60, limping down at the top of the hill there. Who's on board that? That's Duncan Tappy at the moment in 28th position, but big traffic.
Yeah, Frederick Ravish in the number 1 Audi, sort of in the battle between Mercedes. That number 1 Audi is still down in 32nd place, so Is that a pad change going on the 57 Mercedes? We can see only 2 people are allowed to work on the car while it is in the pit lane. Everybody waiting there. What's he holding? He's got a bolt. Now, whether they're removing the caliper, he's got 2 bolts actually, one in each hand. To go back to this little bit of not a kerfuffle, but it's got 3 Mercedes with an Audi somewhere in the middle. So there is.
But the whole point, that battle for 7th place is actually 6th place. Felix Rosenqvist, Thomas Jaeger right on his tail, red ahead of yellow. That's what you need to know. 88 ahead of 86. And at this point in the race, it's fantastic to have it when the cars close right up. Now, the last time we had 2 Mercedes close together, could you remember what happened, John?
I haven't got a clue, but I can tell you what would happen. I know exactly, and I don't think it'll happen again. I'm sure. It's a different scenario this time, of course, because they're all racing for position. Track position is where they are in the race, as opposed to what we saw a few moments ago. And look at that, the Audi trying to slide up the inside of the 88 Mercedes coming up into the bus stop chicane. So that's the 74 Audi.
That's
and that
Nicolas Lapierre. He's not in this battle at all. He's second.
No, but he's still trying to run down the Porsche that's leading his category. The Patrick Pilet car, which when it comes across the line, well, it should have to be 1.6 seconds. I don't see the Porsche anywhere amongst that group of cars.
And Felix Rosenqvist being pressed by Thomas Jaeger. This, I don't think, is a scheduled one. If they were going to do this, I think they'd have wheeled it back into the garage. But for this mechanic, every second he's losing is feeling like
actually,
a minute.
you know what? They should have wheeled it into the garage.
Entirely so.
That would have allowed everybody to work on the car. They could have done all the other work they want to do in the garage. So the Mercedes flashing its lights, trying to get through the back markers, and then the remaining 2 Mercedes. So the work is now complete on that right front. So whether it was a pad change or whichever, I don't know. But it's all a bit nuts as the number 1 Audi tries to slide up the inside. And he's not in this race, but he's still racing. Well, the 666 Lamborghini is the lead car. It currently is in 22nd place with John Minshaw. He's going to get a bit of a wake-up call. It's not like this in historic racing, you know.
It can be occasionally, but not 4 abreast into corners.
When I'm at Goodwood, having the time of my life.
You love Goodwood, John. You always hold out against it. But great shots. Here we are, dry conditions at Spa-Francorchamps. We've had 17 hours of this race, but these cars aren't all in the same battle, but they're still side by side. John Minshaw in the green and red. David Tweek's Lamborghini has let them by, so gentlemanly driving from John there. But the battle we're looking at is the red Mercedes, number 88, with Felix Rosenqvist, and right behind Thomas Jaeger, being kept out of the way by the number 1 Audi, who's not in that battle either. The number 1 Audi down in 32nd position, but with Frederick Vervisch at the wheel, it's lapping just as fast as the cars coming through. This is where the confusion lies, and you've got also Nicolas Lapierre in that mixture. Good to see the 26 Sansalot Racing Audi is going in that very, very long, slow limp back to the pits.
Yeah, Christopher Hassel behind the way. There's a Mercedes rolling. So the 57 car makes its way down the pit lane after an extended pit stop. Now, they may have been using their 5-minute mandatory pit stop to do something that they didn't feel under any particular pressure, and that would have been part of the reason they didn't feel it was necessary to put the car into the garage. So I would assume that was their 5-minute mandatory stop.
You think they've done that there? It is completed onto the track. Just to straighten up what I just said. I said 26 had a slow limp back to the pits. It wasn't. It was the sister car, the 27 Sansalot Racing car, that is down in 56th and final runner in this race. So not the 26 car. That's Christopher Haas in 9th place overall, ahead of Yasemin Jafar.
Mark Lemmer, team manager of car 78. It's the Barwell Motorsport, the car of Liam Machitsky, Marco Attar, Marco Appelli and Tom Kimber-Smith. He's invited up for coffee and biscuits to see race control. Well, I wonder what's going on.
I wonder if Mark could bring us some of those coffee and biscuits just to keep us on our toes on the Sunday morning here at Spa.
56 is in. And it's a driver change, so the 56 Black Falcon, Miguel Toro, Oliver Morley, Al Faisal and Danny Juncadella. Of course, Danny Juncadella, part of the Mercedes-Benz DTM squad. And here we see another. So it's like a thundering herd making their way up the straight, and then they all fan out and try and dive down, dive over, dive under into Les Combes.
But the good news is the 2 cars that are fighting for position, fighting for that 6th place, Felix Rosenqvist in the red Mercedes at the front and Thomas Jaeger in the yellow one behind, are now clear of the traffic. You'll see the number 1 Audi tuck in behind. He's as quick, but that's way down the order for Frederick Vervisch. A little bit of front bodywork damage there on the Mercedes in the pits. That's not troubling the scorers. It's not in the reckoning, but these 2 Mercedes certainly are. The 56 crew, the pit stop almost complete.
Yeah, I mean, that damage, it may have been through a very, very light contact. It could have been from balls of rubber that do gather around the racetrack, and if one of those does hit the front of a car, those turning vanes, the aerodynamic turning vanes, while they're made of carbon fibre, they are vulnerable. So slight damage to them, but having no significant bearing or effect on the car's performance. And quite frankly, frequently when those do get damaged, the car feels better for it.
Which must disappoint the designers and aerodynamicists enormously.
Sometimes I say, what do they know? They sit in their offices, looking at computers, looking at models. Have they ever driven a racing car? Well, I can only think of one that has. Newey.
Newey, but he's quite good, isn't he? Yes.
Well,
there we have it.
Well, obviously he's a friend of yours, but
I'm not talking about his prowess behind the wheel, but he's out there. But it's exactly that, when you have a driver saying to you, the engineer's telling me this, but he's a graduate student. He's never sat in a racing car, and certainly, as you say, John, those that have really got a lot to say that is worth listening to. Number 1, Audi, though, right at the front end last night, and we're going to find out why it's way down outside the top 10, down in 30th position, and we're going to hear from Chris Reinke of Audi Sport Racing to let us know what happened through the night. 28-1 up at the front and now down at the back. Let's find out. Down with Dakota.
Chris, so the number 28 Audi is building its way back up, but what happened to that number 1 during the night? What happened to the number 1 during the evening?
Yeah, unfortunately, number 1 had an incident with another car. It's a first repair stop. We couldn't really identify the cause of the issue, that it started to be quite unstable in driving. At a secondary stop, then we identified a loose front diffuser, and that had to be exchanged. So we had 2 repair stops, and that unfortunately put it down the ranks. But the guys show good performance now. Hang in there and try to make the best out of the situation.
And the number 28, do you have faith in that it can climb its way back up to the top?
Yeah, well, that's of course a brilliant story, especially for endurance racing. You know, that they had an early incident. We used the 5-minute stop to repair the car as quick as possible. Now they're limping a bit, but still, I mean, they're great performance, and they come up the ladder again at 4th position at the moment. And for sure, it's a great story. Yeah.
Well, you seem very happy, so let's see what we can do.
Of course, I mean, what makes me happy is up and down. You know, that gives emotion, that gets us all excited. And yeah, we had been down to. Seemed to be 1.5 cars up in the ranks. Now we're up maybe 2.5 cars back up there. A lot of things changed. We have 8 hours still to go. Just 2/3 of the race are over. So yeah, we're happy about the situation at the moment and looking forward to the rest of the race.
Thank you very much.
Well, the mountain.
Let me just tell Chris, 8 hours to go. Check your watch, my friend. You've got 6 hours and 41 minutes. Because that was a live interview from the pit lane. Is he an hour and 20 minutes out of date or something?
He's on London time, I think. But what was good there was the sheer enthusiasm. So the mountain to climb is slightly steeper than he realised. 6 hours and 40. But the car is tasked. But we've seen it quick in that form. We've had the fastest lap of the race set by not Rennie Rast, the driver on board, by Lawrence Vanthoor. Really strong driver lineup. It's going to go well.
This is the car of all the Audis that one would have looked at face value to say, we're going to do our best job in this particular car. And they've had these setbacks. But you got Lawrence Vanthoor, who was absolutely captivating in the early hours of the morning into daylight. Rennie Rast, mega legend in his own lifetime. Nico Müller. I mean, you couldn't put together a better blend of speed, ability, talent, intelligence. Here the car is back up into 4th place, 1 lap down in the leading. It'll be the leading 2 cars at the minute. It looks like maybe it's certainly the first 2 clearly on the same lap. I'm not sure yet whether Markus Winkelhock is a lap down or just waiting for the correction in the timing and scoring to give us the clearest picture. Nevertheless, 28 still at the races, still over 6 hours remaining before we'll see the checkered flag. Still lots can occur, and we've not really had any of the predicted or traditional Spa weather. Where's the wood? Where's wood in the booth? Any wood in the booth? Find a bit.
Yeah, a bit of chipboard on the wall behind you.
If we ever effectively a rain-free Spa 24, it'll be an absolute. Well, I'll put it down as the highlight of the event.
Well, you can't. Well, I suppose we can just about count the little flurry we had an hour ago. Well, that hardly hit the track.
That was more a sprinkle. We've not seen, to my knowledge, at any point, even in the hours when we were bunkering off, getting a bit of rest, any team having fitted a set of wet tyres. We did see wet tyres being borrowed into the pit lane in the eventuality that we did get one of those very sudden cloudbursts, but it's not really materialized, and we've still got a racetrack which is in exceptionally good condition. There is the lead Pro-Am car, Patrick Pilet behind the wheel still, and the gap between that and the second place Audi on the last lap was lap 380 for this car in the Pro-Am category, 4 laps down, and the lead car is 13.5 seconds. So Nicolas Lapierre chipping away, just taking a tenth here, a couple of tenths there. So Patrick Pilet in a car, I mean, the GT3R Porsche is at the older end of the GT3 technology scale. There's not an awful lot more that Porsche can do with this because of the fundamental layout of the engine, the flat six engine. It hangs out over the rear, so they're not able to get the aero tunnels because the cylinder heads are parallel to the ground.
Yeah, it's the way you can adapt your package, but when you've got it to the limit, you have to have a massive, massive rethink. But Patrick Pilet not putting a wheel wrong, as you'd expect a sponsored Porsche driver, but that gap is staying obstinately 12-14 seconds, and just waiting to see what Nicolas Lapierre can do by way of response. Lost 0.3 of a second on that lap, so traffic affected a little bit. You'd have to say really equal drivers here, and great to have drivers of their caliber coming and lifting some of these other crews and propelling them further forward. Of course, if Nick Lapierre was chasing one of the other drivers from the 76 Porsche crew, he'd be taking chunks of time out of it. But two drivers at the top of their game and the top of their driver lineups. So the 76 Porsche, a little bit of a twitch there, John.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing this Patrick Pilet car chasing Sergio Jimenez in the 16th place, number 3 Audi, and he would really love to get his Porsche ahead of that Audi, just to give him that little bit of additional sort of comfort, if you wish to call it that. So I'm sure Jimenez is fully aware that he's on message to do everything within the book to stall out, maybe even back up the Porsche into the arms of Nicolas Lapierre. And that is the nature of motorsport. It is a team sport. And if you're not directly in contention, as Jimenez isn't, because he's in the pro category down in 16th place, you know, if you can assist this car here, the 74 Audi, second place in the Pro-Am category, by not doing anything that is considered unsporting, but, you know, we see it in a lot of other forms of motorsport where somebody just unintentionally can back you into one of your sister cars.
Yeah, well, the 74 car stuck in traffic. The yellow Mercedes, we saw that was in traffic before, but in clear air now, but has lost that gap. He was right with Felix Rosenqvist, but once he got clear of the traffic, Felix in 6th place has managed to edge clear in that yellow, and now the yellow Mercedes has got clear of traffic as well. The Team Parker Racing tattered Bentley in behind, and then the car we were talking about, the H2 sponsored Audi 74, Nicolas Lapierre at the wheel, desperately wants to get past that Bentley to carry on the chase, and he's losing ground now in that battle for Pro-Am honours, being led by Patrick Pilet in the 76 Porsche, but the Bentley still obstinately in the way. The 60 McLaren in with its very special livery, celebrating 50 years since the Bruce McLaren Racing Team was last adorned on a car, and that's why it's got the special livery. Doesn't appear like the other 58 and 59 cars from Garage 59. Looks like it's going into one of the garages. Yeah, so it's not been going well. Duncan Tappy was the driver that brought it in, 27th place.
It's the third car effectively in a two-car team, and it was there as their insurance car. But the car, I noticed certainly, we saw it in practice and then in qualifying, never looked, as Bruno Senna walks around, and is he about to get into the car? Seemingly so. But this car has never looked to be anywhere near as good a car on track as the two sister cars, the 58 and the 59. And, you know, sometimes you're the unloved sibling. I'm not to say that this car is an unloved sibling, but it just hasn't quite gelled.
Car 4 must respect blue flags. Car 4 must respect blue flags.
Just having a message. Car 4 must respect. Pierre Caffer in 11th place overall, sharing that car with Adrian Deslina and Peter Cox.
Interestingly, team manager of car 57, that was the Mercedes that we saw in the pits with that quite a long stop where they were working on the right front brakes. Car 57 team manager to race control immediately, and one assumes that there may be an issue with where there are more than two people working on the car at any time. Well, was somebody holding a couple of nuts to give to the mechanic perceived to be one person working on the car. We don't know. We saw the mechanic with 2 bolts, 1 in each hand. Did that constitute somebody working on the car or not?
Or did he creep past the white line into the pit lane? He might have just knelt forward. These little offences, we do not know. Looking there at our race leader, 99, Maxime Martin. In behind is the number 4, Pierre Caffer. Audi. John, you're pointing to the screen.
I'm just pointing for the first time in maybe 15 minutes or so. We've seen the lead between the lead BMW with Maxime Martin and Maxime Soulet in the second place, number 8 Bentley. That's come down from under 41 seconds, was hovering around there for a very long time, to 37 seconds. So 4 seconds in the last maybe 10 laps. We're waiting for the Rowe Racing team now. Is this going to be a pit stop for the 98 or the 99 car? We would assume it'll be the lead car, Maxime Martin. New set of tyres available, so will the BMW peel in to the pit lane as it comes out? No, it stays out, so it's not maybe the 99 car let's not blame you with this opinion, Bruce. I thought it might be coming in. A little bit of loosening up.
Well, that's Dirk Werner, so the answer as to which car is coming in, it will be the 98 car that's running in 5th place with Stef Dusseldorp. So just trying to get a bit limber and just get the focus ahead of your stint in the car. So we'll take over the 98 car in 5th place, while its sister car, 99, leading the race. BMW with such a storied history and record here at the Spa 24 Hours. It has 22 wins, and with 2 cars in the reckoning, you have to say it's got a very good chance of taking win number 23, but Bentley will want to have something to say, and the number 6 Audi crew also in the reckoning. And don't forget, those Mercedes are creeping closer, but they're still a lap and a half down.
So there's the 98 car, which will be, I will confidently predict, be coming into the pits at the end of this lap, getting past our friends from Bratislava with their Lamborghini, the multi-coloured Lamborghini. Always seems, I mean, it's a great shame because everybody working in the Lamborghini team from Bratislava are doing as hard a job as anybody else is, but they always seem, when we're seeing a car lapping a back marker, it's always that particular yellow Lamborghini. So well, coming in 98 this time, here it is.
There's the jink. Of course, if you paint your car a distinctive colour, it does stand out all the more against the black and red races that seem to pale into the darkness. But 98 crew in from 5th place. Stef Dusseldorp, he had nearly half a minute's advantage over Felix Rosenqvist, who is now 6.9 seconds clear of Thomas Jaeger in the Mercedes.
Nicolas Lapierre has just made a position. Now the 0-0, Jelmer Berman seems to have dropped down one position.
Just came out of the pits.
Maybe that's the reason why. So that's why we got the lead Pro-Am car in 16th and Nicolas Lapierre second in 17th. The gap was 14.7 seconds. The last lap round, we wait to see as both cars filter through. So the gap between lead and second place Pro-Am is, where did that all come from? 10.2 seconds.
Because Pilet's just come into the pits and therefore had a slow pit entry.
Oh, you spoiled it for me.
I know.
Trying to excite everybody at home to think, what's happened to Porsche?
Quick dose of adrenaline, but yes, I mean, it was just over 14 seconds. Lapierre is lapping very well indeed, his best lap for a while. But what we're going to start seeing now with Stef Dusseldorp just having handed over the 98 BMW to Dirk Werner is, I think we're going to see a flurry of the top 6 coming into the pit stops, because certainly this 98 car led the grouping round. 88 out on the circuit. Will he be elevated into 5th? Just momentarily he will. Felix Rosenqvist going better and better and better for AKA ASP.
Yeah, and again, at this period, he's got a relatively clear air ahead of him. No big bunching of other, Pro-Am cars to delay, and the Porsche is in. So did Pilet stay on board? We wait to see. I think he may have done the transponder. Certainly has not indicated anything else. Well, so he's got to be their go-to guy to try and consolidate the position that they have enjoyed, certainly through this current stint of leading the Pro-Am category.
And when you've got a driver of his calibre, you might go quite tempting to put him in for a triple stint, but we've seen doubles.
Limits,
but there are limits, of course, and particularly in a 4-driver car, you are limited on your time. Felix Rosenqvist is in a 3-driver lineup.
But also, you can't negate your AM. He has got to do a minimum amount of time as well, so that's the kicker, if you like, in having pros and AMs mixing together. So down the pit comes the 98.
And you can see it's the Heritage pit lane. Looks though I painted those white lines very
well, I'll tell you what,
down.
I have to say the pit lane looks a bit like the roads round where I live in Oxfordshire. They're
terrible.
You're lucky.
You're lucky.
They're awful, appalling.
Yeah, they're sort of rivulets can run down there, great gaps in the tarmac in the lower pit lane. Still has a certain charm, but a world apart.
98 getting caught. There's another car just in the pit lane exit. Couldn't quite see what it is. Well, it is an Audi. Which Audi is it? The 70?
Lapierre's car, is it? No, he wasn't in. He was due in.
Couldn't quite see which car that was that came out. So clearly, the 98 of Dirk Werner didn't want to get delayed. And he got past pretty quickly.
It was the 25 Santilot racing car down towards the tail of the field. That was the one just in front of him.
It had the sort of look of a meander as it came up the pit lane. Wasn't a great deal of commitment. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
So Dirk Werner in the 98, just having made that pit stop, was 5th, has dropped down since he took over from Stef Dusseldorp to 7th, but then he will see majority of those cars ahead of him coming in the next handful of laps and should work his way back up into 5th place again. We're seeing this cycle starting to be run through, but the sister car leading the race by waiting for the 99 car with Maxime Martin, waiting for Maxime Soulet in the number 8 Bentley to cross the start-finish line to tell us if the gap is still around 35 seconds. It was just north of 40 seconds.
Yeah, so Dirk Werner on his outlap, and yeah, just getting the feel for the car and taking a lap, a couple of corners. So there he goes, out of Campos corner through Stabilo, runs the Paul Frere curb, and I suppose everybody who's listening to this broadcast is fully aware of who Paul Frere is, but for those that are maybe younger than me and maybe haven't got a knowledge of motorsport history, particularly Belgian motorsport history, Paul Frere is one of a number of great Belgian journalists who also happen to be an extremely accomplished race driver who won Le Mans 24 hours and did compete in a Grand Prix or 3, certainly here at Spa-Francorchamps. He competed, I believe, in the middle 50s in a Ferrari painted in the national racing colours of Belgium, which are, Bruce?
Yellow.
Correct.
But he gets a corner named after him, but I noticed coming back from the bus stop, our catering on the outside, you go through the tunnel Jacques Soitos. So he doesn't get quite the same fame, he doesn't get a corner, but he was the one who put the yellow on the scene in many ways, because he had Écurie Francorchamps, he founded that, Écurie National Belge as well, cars that ran in the yellow colours, but not having scored points in the World Championship to the way that Paul Frere did, he gets the tunnel. Paul Frere gets one of the fastest corners on the circuit.
Yeah, Paul Frere, I mean, a great race driver, say, a great journalist, and in fact, on many occasions when there were events of new product launches, Paul Frere would be there ragging it around in his 80s, and everybody was saying, who's that old guy? But that old guy has a great reputation as a race driver. As we see, the Mercedes anxious to get through past the 51 Ferrari. So the 88 car is showing currently in 5th place and makes its way down the hill. It's still Felix, no, it's not in the 88 car. That is. No, I'm just trying to think which driver is in the 88
transponder. Well, it's Felix Rosenquist, but the 88 is the red. That's 86. That's Thomas Jaeger in the yellow car, which not so long ago they were fighting for position. Almost the length of the Kemmel Straight is what separates them now. Just under 9 seconds. And now having worked his way through the traffic, past the 51 Ferrari.
Thomas Jaeger. Here we go. Now.
So not running entirely smoothly for McLaren. The 58 car had been out there potentially challenging for pole position. The last car to go out in Super Pole didn't get to make its lap. A radio message said, switch off. We've had signals in the pit. What was the problem?
Sheared oil pump drive. That was the word I was given. Now, I mean, it could have been anything else, but sheared oil pump drive has got a sort of a ring of truth about it, because obviously if it did shear, oil pressure would drop off the face of the earth. So stop, 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 which is what Shane Van Gisbergen has done. But the McLaren has not had any real pace, other than that one lap Van Gisbergen did on Friday at the end, or the beginning of the nighttime qualifying. It's never shown that pace again. Yeah. And it's hovered around, it did hover around the bottom end of the top 10 for a very long time. Now well and truly outside in 36th place. And it's a disappointment for the crew. That car we know won the 12 hours of Bathurst, it's won the 6 hours of Paul Ricard, it's won another 3-hour endurance round. So the car has got out-and-out pace, but for some reason, which I can't explain, maybe we'll find out from Baz Linders, at some point as to why we're not seeing that level of pace here that we've enjoyed from other events earlier this season.
Well, the sister car, one of the sister cars, number 60, also way down the order. Now out of second place in the pit lane comes Maxime Soulet, the number 8 Bentley. It all looks like a very standard stop. They've had many stops, including some extra ones, it must be pointed out. We mentioned it about an hour ago. They've had not one, but 2 drive-in penalties. Now, what's life going on at McLaren's? Let's find out from the man who should know, the boss, Baz Linders.
Baz, we have quite a bit to talk about. When I left you last night, the McLaren 58 was one of the leading cars. What's gone on with it now?
Yeah, with car 58, we're going really well. In the first 6 hours, we were very unlucky with full course yellows. That brought us 1 lap down, which was very unfortunate. That was very unlucky. But then we were fighting our way back. So again, before the 12th hour, we're getting close to 4th position, 3rd position. But then Côme Ledegaard got hit by a Lamborghini. He was trying to overtake a Lamborghini who closed the door. So we had to repair that damage. And since then, yeah, we had some small issues, but I mean, then we lost a lot of time, more than 10 minutes. So that was very unfortunate.
And looking in your other garages, you've got 59 resting on that side. What's going on with that?
Well, that actually got hit twice. Struan Moore and Alex Fontana both got hit. We twice had to do a repair, and then when they got back out, there was a funny feeling in the steering. So we're not sure if that's all 100%. To change that would take quite some time, and we don't want to. We lost a lot of time, and we don't want to take any risk with the car or the drivers. So we decided to retire that car.
And lastly, but not least, certainly, car number 60.
Well, it also just got hit by a Bentley. You know, these Bentleys are very big. When you hit them or they hit you, you always get a damage. And so we have to change a radiator now. So there again, it's not our race.
Do you know which Bentley's the culprit for that?
No, I don't know. I mean, honestly, at the moment, I don't really care.
So your faith is currently resting with car 59. Are you confident in that it can climb its way back up?
Well, I mean, we're not going to score points, I think, today. So, but we would like to have these 2 cars at the finish because the team has been working really hard. We put a lot of effort since the beginning of the season, but especially also the last few weeks before this 24 hours. I mean, we would really like to win this race, which is a very tough race. So, I mean, the least what we can do is try and get them to the finish.
Well, hopefully we can push car 58 to the end. Thank you.
Hopefully.
Good luck.
So putting on a brave face, Baz Linders, but clearly it's been a night time they won't want to remember here at Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, Baz has great success. Bigger smiles from Wilson's 1 and 2, Malcolm Wilson, because of course their Bentleys are, well, one of them, the number 8 car, still very much in the hunt on the lead lap, has been leading the race, just made a pit stop which has dropped it down to 3rd behind the Phoenix Audi in 2nd place and the 99 BMW leading the way. But for a man who cut his teeth on the rally stages, it's been a very, very strong conversion to circuit racing in recent years. But Lena Gade right in front of us, so used to all the successes she's had with Audi. This is her first big race since 24 Hours at Le Mans when she was with Audi, enjoying it, and certainly the tactics she's been putting in have been very strong.
I just wonder what her thoughts are on those 2 indiscretions of allowing a driver or 2 drivers to overrun their maximum permitted time. Is that her responsibility, or would that be someone else's responsibility within the infrastructure of M Sport?
Well, you certainly feel within M Sport it will be crystal clear in future 24-hour races. And it may well be they didn't have anybody absolutely responsible in the way. There might have been someone alongside Lena at Audi that did it, but you can be sure the way Lena's mind works, it will not happen again.
No, I know, but I mean, the problem is it has happened.
Absolutely.
And I just wonder, I mean, I don't want to apportion blame to one individual, but as a generalisation, I mean, Lena's a girl who's come from the WRT, or not the Le Mans Audi or WEC Le Mans program with phenomenal success. And I mean, if you listen to the Audi radio when they make pit stops, she has been in control. And tell you, I mean, I'd rather go in front of a schoolmistress than go in front of her if I'd done something wrong.
Yeah, she does rule with a rod of iron, incredibly focused. So here we have leading the race, Maxime Martin leading for BMW, Audi in 2nd place, Markus Winkelhock and Andy Soucek So let's go and have a look at some highlights. The first 2/3 of the Spa 24 Hours. Grey conditions ahead of the start of the race, but it was dry. Belgian flags obviously in clear evidence. Linkin Park, their sponsor rock group, sponsoring number 00. They got to wave them away on their formation lap. But when it came to the race start, it was René Rast leading for Audi, Mirko Bortolotti tucked in behind and already showing their hand very much indeed. Bentley in third place, chased by the number 50 Ferrari. Then Robin Freins had a little bit of bodywork rubbing with the Bentley of Callum McLeod. Marcus Seefried, was he pushed, did he jump off into the gravel on the first lap? 4 Mercedes coming in at the end of lap 1, not because of the full course yellow, they had to come in anyway to serve a 5-minute penalty. And it played into their hands, reduced their deficit. Mirko Bortolotti led the race for Lamborghini. The speed lover Porsche getting pushed out wide early on, right in the hunt as well, the number 50 AF Corsa Ferrari. A very strong opening stint, and then it left Bortolotti to fight off not one but 2 Audis. Number 2 with Robin Freins right in behind and just behind the 28 car. That, as we've heard, has had problems, but not as big a problem as the 77 Porsche and the 53 Ferrari had a big clash as the Porsche came out of the pit lane, joined the track at the top at Raidillon and met the 53 Ferrari. Moto Aki into the wall on one side, and for Giancarlo Fisichella, before he even got to drive the car, unfortunately out of the race. Both drivers okay, but the barriers were not, so we had a long period behind the safety car as the barriers were repaired on the exit of Raidillon. It wasn't to be the only time they were given a rattle during the race. So the drivers and the teams having to think on their feet and work out when was the best time to make their pit stop. Clearly under full course yellow, plenty of drivers could effectively reduce the impact of having a pit stop. Some still going to make the pits as BMW led away, chased by McLaren and the Pro-Am class-leading Porsche that was running third. There it is, coming in behind them into the pit stops. Conditions, though, were dry, and towards the top came Bentley with the number 8 crew in particular having a good run, just seeing it come in to make a pit stop. But then it's Spa-Francorchamps. What do you expect? Do you expect rain at some point? And track for a little very brief period became a little bit slippery. Everyone kept it on the island though, and working its way towards the top came the Phoenix Audi crew. Number 6 going very well, and also going superbly out on track were the 2 Emil Frey Racing Jaguars. There is one of them coming to the pit stop. They rose as high as 2nd and 3rd positions overall, but Audi always have a group of cars at the front end. The yellow Ferrari should have been at the front end too. Passanatoris tossed it off into the gravel on the outside of the circuit. At this point in the race, it was McLaren having its best run. Here's Côme Ledegard going past the 98 BMW up at La Source, gaining another couple of seconds in a pit stop. But then Parker Racing, Derek Pierce, something just went awry as he turned into the second part of Les Combes. He went out into the barriers, and that was another yellow car, a yellow flag period. But it was over and out, unfortunately, for a while at least, for the number 12 Busson-Gignon Racing BMW, and then over out definitely for another BMW team, BMW Italia, and that was Giorgio Roda at the top of the hill. More damage to the barriers at Raidillon. Now proper night time, it feels like a 24-hour race when darkness falls and incidents are plenty. Here was the battle over, I think, 5th place at the time. René Rast and the 114 Jaguar with Jonathan Hershey coming to blows on the corner after Pouhon taking off a Ferrari as well, and it seems the certainly rear-end damage to the 28 Audi, but much more delay for Jonathan Hershey in the 114 Jaguar, and that's dropped right down the order. It's just currently almost in 50th place, 48th position of the 55 cars still running. Nighttime also means party time at Spa-Francorchamps. A big concert down on the stage just on the left of the circuit as the drivers run down to Eau Rouge. No time for them to be distracted because trying to find space on the circuit, very difficult indeed. Andy Soucek watching on from the Bentley garage, trying to stay rested, but cars have to be rescued. Here's a Lamborghini being pulled out of the gravel. Race briefly interrupted, but also a bit of oil went down on the circuit. There's one of the other Lamborghinis from Grasso Racing Team being delayed. Team Parker Racing number 30 going round again, luckily not being hit and managing to point the car in the right direction at the bus stop. A corner that's super tight and has caught drivers out throughout the day, the night and into the morning. Drivers still going for little rotations down there, but for BMW Row Racing, both the 98 and the 99 cars going very well indeed, and it's 99 trying to find an advantage. But for one of the Bentleys, that's the other Team Parker Racing car, that was delayed. A shunt on the exit of Les Combes, and of course through the course of the race, pad changes, disc changes have to be made. All the cars have to change them. If you can do it during a safety car period, the amount of time taken out of your relative track position is reduced. So for the teams that have managed to work their way to the front, a little bit of luck and good timing of pit stops has enabled them to climb up the order. Still contact coming in the night. There's one of the two ISR Audis being pitched sideways, a bit of contact from the rear. Rear diffuser problems have delayed the number 1 car after impact. That had been going very well, notably with Frederik Vervisch and Dries Vanthoor. But as the BMWs came to the top, so did the Bentleys. Still in the night, the number 8 Bentley started to make its charge. It's about keeping it clean, but it's had a couple of extra penalties coming to the pit stop, not once but twice, for exceeding its driver stint time. And that's hampered it, but it's still there in the mix in 3rd place at the moment. Now you have to make that standard brake change, and for the very best teams, they have it incredibly well organised. Wheel the car back into the garage, your 5-minute stop, change the brakes, rear bodywork hanging off the Speed Lover Porsche. That was eventually pulled off the circuit. Now we had oil on the circuit. Was it from this Kaspersky Ferrari? Certainly it went for a rotation, but it was one of the CMR Ferraris that got far more damage. Number 41 taking a real clonk, and that has taken it out of the race. And was it oil from that incident led to Wolfgang Reip to take a spin at La Source, but the Belgian racer got it pointing in the right direction down the hill, and luckily very quickly the oil was cleaned up. You can see the cement dust being blown around on the circuit as cars drive over it, having mopped up that oil. But the problems with the number 8 Bentley didn't stop with that spin. Tight fighting down the order. The number 50 Ferrari working its way back up after the delay caused by Passin Latoris going off early on. It's been a real catch-up fight ever since. It's at the moment now up into 7th place as we reached 10:15 in the morning. But as night was going on, another mistake by Wolfgang Reip, overshooting his pit stop, the Bentley having to be dragged back, but it's still in the mix despite that. Lena Gade taking a look at the tactics, wonderful shots, great artwork from the camera crews down in the pit lane and out around the circuit. The car in 20th place, couldn't identify it, but that was being pulled away from a stopping out on the track when running in the top half of the field. But night fused gradually into morning. At this point, we'd only had one little 1-minute flurry of rain. The Phoenix crew working its way towards the front, up into the top 3. The 99 BMW either first or second, being chased by that number 8 Bentley. And their pit stops slightly out of sequence with each other, but pit stops and Bentleys aren't things that seem to have gone enormously well in this race. The spin at the final corner at bus stop, and here we have drivers having to run wide to go past that Speed Lover Porsche. Has been in the way a fair bit, a late addition to the running order in the race. And then the 56 Mercedes left with absolutely nowhere to go as the 333 Ferrari goes for a spin. Now here was a strange one, the wheel gun snapping, shearing there as the 89 Mercedes was in for its pit stop. But this was the most notable incident of the last couple of hours. Yasemin Jafar going for a rotation. Now look where his car comes to a halt. It damages its rear wing at the top of Raidillon against the wall and then comes back onto the circuit. The car's recovered. It's lost ground.
Well, we got the top 3 standings. What is important to report is that first and second. What is important to report is that first and second are now only 17.7 seconds apart. And before we went back to that highlights package, the gap, and of course there's been ins and outs and pit stops, the gap was hovering around 40 seconds, got down to 37. So somewhere along the line, Bentley have made up 20 seconds or BMW have lost 20 seconds. But the gap now between first and second, 17.7 seconds. Christopher Mies in 3rd place. It's a further 43 seconds behind the lead BMW, 26 seconds behind the 2nd place Bentley. So this is a battle for the race still.
Now another battle is the Pro-Am class, 16th and 18th at the moment. Patrick Pilet leading the class in the 76 Porsche. But time has been lost. They both had a pit stop. Nicolas Lapierre was 14 seconds behind. He's now more than 20 seconds back. A slower pit stop and perhaps a bit of traffic as well for the Audi driver. 3rd place in class at the moment, but in the pits is the number 11 entry from Kessel Racing, the Ferrari. So they're the top 3. If you're looking down to see who's top of the class in AM, look to 32nd position. It's Manguedes, Mastronardi and Cressoni. They're leading from the 888 Ferrari that was given a time penalty a short while ago for disrespecting track limits. That's 2nd in class in 33rd overall. And then 42nd position, the 333, car that went off on the opening lap That is third in the AM class.
Yes, but in the AM class, there's a couple of laps between the lead car, the 51, and the 888, which is in second place. So comfortable position for the 51 Ferrari, the AF Corsa car. So they really, all they have to do is just maintain what they're doing. There's little chance that 888 can run them down in terms of out-and-out pace. It's only going to do something beyond their control, maybe an issue in reliability or a pit stop, weather, other cars, contact. Lots of things can go wrong, but you can control a great deal of it yourself.
Well, we're 2/3 of the way through the race. You can see from 56th position down to 65th, they're not running anymore. We've lost 10 of the runners, but still 55 going.
Maxime Soulet in second place, taking a further second out of the advantage of the lead BMW. Strange, because for a long time those two cars were lapping approximately the same lap time, and Maxime Martin, you know, Mr. Spa-Francorchamps, as opposed to, not Maxime Soulet, I beg your pardon, Andy Soucek. It's Andy Soucek in the Bentley who is doing these great times and has got that advantage from the lead BMW down to 16.8.
Now, at 12 hours, halfway through this race, a dollop of points was handed for those that were leading their classes. And it has affected the overall running, but not, well, it hasn't helped Rob Bell leading the way in the GT Series driver points. Still way out clear. He didn't get any points because the 58 car was way down. But for Maxi Buch, picking up a bit of ground, Dominic Baumann. And this is for the combination of the sprint and endurance categories. So Rob Bell from McLaren still leading the way, but certainly the cars that bobbed up well, might have even been just during a pit stop cycle, they gained those extra positions, they pick up the points. The big points come at the end of the 24 hours, of course, but it's McLaren leading the way in that. But certainly, as we heard just a short while ago from Baz Linders down at Garage 59, it's not McLaren's race, John.
No, it's not. I know Baz told us that they got the car up into the top 4 or so. The thing that the McLaren has not done, which is fundamental, it's not been able to show real out-and-out pace. There's been a lot of pace from a lot of cars. McLaren got there because they're a good team. Baz runs a tight ship. He's a clever guy, knows how to run races. But they've just, to me, they've not really had that level of out-and-out pace. So consequently, they've now found themselves much further down the field and effectively down in 36th position for the 58. That's the quickest of the 3 cars.
And that's so 10 places behind this Bentley, the delayed Bentley, number 7. Just had Vincent Avril bring it in. Looks like there's a further driver change, but I don't think Avril's been in the car that long, so maybe not. But wait for it. Fix the bonnet down and timing use of the hand. Hopefully that wasn't an extra mechanic. No, they all look quite happy up in Bentley land, but it's the sister car, number 8, that is leading the way.
More than 2 track limits. For car 8, report is sent to the steward.
Oh, I said they were smiling at Bentley, but I didn't mean that, because they might have been, but they won't be now. A report is being sent to the stewards. Unfortunately, car number 8, they're well played, place 1. A report has been sent to them, to the stewards for exceeding track limits. It won't be the first, but that is another. They're going to need a second page in their notebook for the number of penalties to a car that's tilting for victory.
I mean, this car has been running really, really quick. Andy Soucek behind the wheel. So maybe part of that pace has been just running the limit. To come back to another team that's not really had a great race this year so far, that's the Nissan team, the 23 Nissan. For the first time, I think, in this race, with 6 hours remaining, so roughly with 18 hours of the race run, finally gets onto the page 1 of our timing and scoring in 20th place. 5 laps down on the race leading BMW of Maxime Martin. And the gap between first and second, Andy Soucek still carving lumps out of the lead down to 13 seconds. But the warning has been given. Race director is on the case of car number 8. So, you know, either Matthew Wilson or somebody in the pits has got to get on the old 2-way radio and say, Andy, be careful. You're running to the edge. We don't need another drive-through penalty.
Yeah, one drive-through or stop-go penalty or whatever. Unfortunately,
more than 2 track limits for car number 8.
Rather clumsy.
Report is sent to the stewards.
Well,
more than 2 track limits for car 8. Report sent to the steward.
More than 2 offences for number 8. So a lot of that time seemingly coming from the extra time. But the time you can lose with a drive-through penalty is the equivalent of taking more than a second a lap off. Well, about 3 seconds a lap off the car ahead during a stint.
Yeah, I understand all the rules and regulations, and of course when a driver is on a charge, as Andy Soucek is, and he's in a wonderful rhythm. And I don't think that he is consciously trying to take advantage, but he's using every bit of the track on the entry and every bit of the track on the exit to try and maximise the gap, and it's now down to just a fraction over 11 seconds between first and second, and it'll not be very long before Andy Soucek will be able to see the tail of that 99 BMW. And I would suggest the pace that he's been carrying over these last 5-6 laps, when he gets onto the Kemmel straight in the next 3 or so laps, and there we see, look at the chunks of rubber. Now, those are the things that do damage to those little turning vanes and bits of aerodynamic in the front of a car.
And in fact, when I looked at the sister Bentley in the pitch, you can see the damage to the paintwork all the way up the bonnet from these great balls of rubber that get thrown up there. But just interesting. It's not just that Andy Soucek is really going very well in the number 8 Bentley, but the number 99 BMW leading the race, 2-minute 24s against 2-minute 21s.
Well, I mean, that he's further down the road, so he may be again coming up to a group of cars, and that's where his momentum is. I mean, the pace that the BMW has been running at has been pretty much within a few tenths of a second. I think most of the reasons in this last 6 or 7 laps may be more traffic related than just simply the out-and-out pace. But, you know, we don't know. We have to wait and see whether that is a pace issue as the 60 McLaren, and that's coming into the pits for yet another service. And that's really not been anywhere at the races. That's the Garage 59. So Bruno Senna,
well, I thought
Duncan Tappy, Pipo Derani. So it's a bit like a punch bowl, and it's been a target for everybody to attack it.
Yeah, well, it looks like it was crabbing as it was coming down the pit lane. I thought, was that because the stripes in the pit lane have been painted on in a wonky fashion? But we've heard a report it might have been hit again.
Well, they're going round.
Car not long after the garage, radiator change.
They're going round each wheel and they're seeing if there's any movement. So there's something the driver is unhappy with. He feels that there's something the car is doing which it ought not to do. So they're looking to see if there's any
drive-through penalty for car 114 track limits.
Oh. Well, the threat, if you get your track, you exceed your track limits, you do 4, you get the warning, and it's adjudged by the steward you have erred big time. 114 is on the receiving end of that. That's one of the 2 Frey Racing Jaguars drive-through penalty.
Yeah, the reports coming from the pit lane saying there was some contact at the rear of the car, but clearly one of the guys ran around the car and pulled on each corner to see if there was anything that was obvious. So they're putting it in the dollies. They're going to roll it back into, and if a driver has no confidence whatsoever in the car and he says, "Look, I can't drive this thing. It's just not safe. It doesn't feel safe." So the car is out of contention anyway. So they're just going to roll it back into the pits, into the garage. Spend a bit of time. It's currently in 41st position. So, sadly for Duncan Tappy, who was behind the wheel, Duncan's not the kind of guy who's going to come in and complain. He's going to try and drive around the problem. But if it's sufficient, he's going to have to say sorry.
But when the car was in the garage last time for repairs, we saw Bruno Senna coming around.
Car 51,
we wondered if he was going to go and take over. Clearly, Duncan Tappy has continued. So you can imagine a little bit more if Bruno had taken the car over Bruno Senna, he might have said the car feels strange, but Duncan had driven it previously, so it has become strange. So reports of a rear contact certainly would stack up, but you do wonder how strong are these McLarens. We heard how strong the Bentleys are, because I can't think who it was who was telling us that, but they said when a Bentley hits you, you can really feel it's a big car. But the McLaren looks like the other end of the scale. It looks a far lighter looking car. It won't be lighter, but just in terms of appearance.
Well, I would equate the Bentley to, let's say, a normal size, not say male or female, model, and the McLaren is more like somebody that's undernourished, underfed. It is a very much more race car in every aspect of it. It is designed as a high-performance road car, but it is designed by a team that is phenomenal success. So they look at it from that perspective, where things like the Bentley, the BMW, the Audi and others, these are road cars which are bought and driven by normal people. The McLaren as a road car is bought and driven by people that are enthusiasts and want the ultimate from a road car experience. So there's fundamentally a difference in the design conception. But of course, the McLaren is a bulletproof car. You don't finish the 12 hours of Bathurst in any race car. And that was a race of attrition, as well as a race that was a flat-out race all the way through. So the car is a very suitable long-distance car. But in terms of ancillaries and bits around the car, aerodynamic parts, they're all very vulnerable, and some cars more sensitive to losing a turning vane or maybe a bit of damage at the rear. For example, the diffuser might get slightly damaged, and that can just be sufficient to take away a little bit of rear downforce. Suddenly the thought comes into a driver's mind, something is wrong, something's broken, and of course then you get tentative, you don't commit, and on it goes. It becomes a story where you end up in the pits and the team are taking the car apart to find out what's wrong.
Well, another story, I was wondering if the 99 car leading the race, the BMW Maxime Martin, was losing a bit of ground. It must have been traffic, because I just saw a graphic showing how he lost 2.5 seconds on one lap, but then the next 2 laps he not only equalled the charge from the number 8 Bentley, but bettered it, so the gap is out to 11.8 seconds. Again, all seems to have settled down. They've got through their gluts of traffic, but one thing, you work your way through one group, John, and you know full well there's going to be another group up ahead of you. 54 rivals out on the circuit, or still circulating. In fact, we only have a couple of cars in the pits at the moment. One of them, of course, we saw just not so long ago, was the number 60 Duncan Tappy driven McLaren, down to 42nd position. Still a few laps in hand over the next car in the running order, which is the number 69 entry, which is the ARC Bratislava, the yellow and multicoloured Lamborghini, but should come out ahead as long as all is found to be okay.
Just this 114 Jaguar track limits. Christian Klein was the driver who's just brought the car into the pits. I wonder, was Christian, of course, again known for his association with Jaguar in its days when it ran in Grand Prix. So was he imagining he's back in a Grand Prix Jaguar, or was he not just realised that track limits do apply and whatever? So he's in the car, in the pit lane, and the car's been given a drive-through for that particular reason.
Well, it's not going to wreck its race because it's down in 48th position overall. Of course, this was a car that got damaged in that clash when fighting over about 5th place with René Rast's Audi just after nightfall yesterday evening, but lost more time than the 28 Audi did, and the 28 Audi is up in 4th place at the moment.
11.3 seconds, the gap between 1st and 2nd. So Maxime Martin, whatever traffic or whatever, but what I don't understand, there was a 20-second sort of, where did that come from? Was that as the consequence of a bad pit stop, or there's a limit on how quickly you can do your pit stops, or did Bentley, for example, go for one of those really quick sub 1 minute 55s where you've got about 27 seconds to do whatever you want to do, and you can't do an awful lot. You can't change 4 wheels and tires in 27 seconds. You might change one if you needed to through a puncture. So that 20 seconds is, where did it come from?
Well, I think that's your answer. That is what I believe had happened. So we're leading the race is still this BMW number 99. Andy Soucek giving chase, 11.3 seconds. It's according to traffic. But what you can see, the BMW has a clean stretch of track ahead of him and can concentrate on what he needs to do. Andy Soucek likewise will be hoping his lap is clear. In fact, he's taken half a second out of the race leader in the first sector of the circuit. Looking now, though, at that race leader, the Rowe Racing BMW. They're lying in the lead of the race and in 5th place, Dirk Werner in the 98 sister car. He's a lap down, however, and a lot of that was whether you managed to get a pit stop during a full course yellow period or not. And some of the teams gained during the night and will have lost again. But for the team at the front, for the 99 crew, it's been a very clean race indeed. For the car that's chasing the number 8 Bentley has not been so clean. They've had 2 drive-through penalties for exceeding driver stint limits, which is going to be a source of much conversation, one feels, when they have to debrief after this race, because to have those 2 penalties and to be within a dozen seconds of the leading car, you don't need to be Einstein to work out where you would have been without
Bruce, I hate to reflect and I hate to remind Bentley, but when we were at Paul Ricard, they had their 2 cars. There's the number 60 McLaren. They've done a repair to the car. Whether they keep Duncan Tappy in, we'd wait to see. But to go back to Paul Ricard, Bentley had 2 cars in the second row of the grid, and everybody in the pit lane said this is a no-brainer. They're going to walk this race. And just a variety of little things crept in and ultimately denied them the chance to take a victory. So there's been a number of issues here, some of which were in control of the drivers, some of which probably in control of the team. There is the number 2 Bentley. It's down to 10.6 seconds. So yet again, another, well, 0.8 of a second benefit to Andy Soucek in his pursuit of Maxime Martin. And we know that Andy Soucek has had a warning for track limits, so I'm sure he has taken it on board. He will just, there's the Bentley coming onto the straight as the BMW turns into Les Combes. So it took 5 laps, maybe 4. And once you can see, he'll know that that was the BMW, because your eyes, believe it or not, when you're in a racing car, the depth of field and the distance you've got to recognize what's up ahead of you. Lovely feeling when you can see yourself actually closing in.
Yeah, first you have to get visual and then you start the chunks.
When you get the visual, then all of a sudden an extra impetus. So Maxime Martin gets past one of the Porsches, which generously gets out of the way. Then we got the Ferrari. And let's see what Maxime Martin can do. Can the Ferrari be cooperative?
Well, I'll give you a clue. The BMW slightly delayed in traffic there, but he's lost 0.7 of a second to Soucek on the start of this lap alone, the first of the 3 segments. 2 Bentleys coming through Pouhon, but the important factor is the car that has got it. We've had a change of position. The Team Parker racing car with a tattered front end, number 30, has let the number 8 car through, and let's see how much time was lost in that sequence. I think not at all. The middle sector of the lap, we can see if any more time has been gained in about a dozen seconds when Andy Soucek goes through. His target time to beat is 1 minute 6 seconds. He's gained another 4 tenths of a second. He's taken a second off in the first 2/3 of the lap, but he's got clear track now, as has our race leader, Maxime Martin. Wave blue flags. Not everybody has paid attention to those, and they've been punished. Wave to show a driver, a faster driver in a car that's ahead of you in the race order is coming through by and large, but the final corner of the circuit, the bus stop, negotiated cleanly.
Yeah, drive-through penalty for car 85, that's the HTP Mercedes-Benz, and likewise Team Parker Bentley number 30, it's been given a drive-through penalty for not respecting track limits. And rain at turn 15, so that is down at the entry into Blanchimont. Just on the exit of Paul Frere Courbe and the run up into Blanchimont. Not a nice place because that's high speed and you really want everything you can. So on board the Bentley down the hill, going past the Ferrari. So drop down, run your curb. Bentley good over the curbs, we know that. M Sports expertise with suspension, particularly damping and springing and knowing how to make a car work on a rally stage, knowing how to make a car work on a racetrack. Little raindrops, sort of just small amount coming up into Les Combes, but getting a little bit heavier as he turns in. So the rain is down at the far end of the circuit. Not particularly worrying here, but look across there, you can see, I think you can see rain is falling to the left, and this is now a little bit heavier as we come down into Bruxelles. Yeah,
as we heard on the approach to Blanchimont, we're getting spatters as they drop down the hill to Speaker's Corner, but the dark cloud was over critical corners, curve Paul Frere, and on the uprise, 9.5 seconds was the gap. Another 4 tenths have been gained by Andy Soucek. We're riding on board with him in the Bentley, going through Pouhon.
And this, I tell you, Bruce, when you're in a race car in these conditions, this is where you get uber sensitive on the steering wheel. There's no aggression on the entry, and all the braking is done very, very premeditatedly to make sure that you're not doing anything that might destabilize or unsettle your car. Rain again, it's funny, it's sort of slightly heavier in one bit and not so bad, but here, this is the bottom of the circuit, and now Andy Soucek feels the need to clear that rain, and it was coming around the exit of this corner here, and on the Paul Frere curb. You don't want to necessarily run the curbs, because when they get wet rain and paint are not a good mix. So the climb up the hill, traction looks pretty reasonable. The track doesn't look quite so bad here. It looks like actually it's just more to the 14, 13, 12 corners. So he'll be breathing a sigh of relief as he comes up into the final 2 corners and knows that what he is seeing on his windscreen, there is the lead car coming across the start-finish line. There is the second car. It'll be something like 9 seconds, maybe just under 9 seconds. As it comes across the line now, 9.6.
Yeah, what happened? They had almost identical final sector times, the 3rd sector of the lap. 4 tenths gained by Soucek in the Bentley in the first third of the lap, and then handed back because Maxime Martin, the race-leading BMW, equaled that, took the same amount of time back. So there is, but look what you can see over the last few laps, just how much has been gained. 1/10 of a second lost actually by the Bentley at the end of that lap. But what is very good indeed is now for Andy Soucek, he can see the BMW up ahead and not too many cars in between them, just one car between them at the moment.
Well, we've got a 9.6 second gap between the first and second place in the Pro category. We've got a 10.5 second gap between the lead in the Pro-Am category. And I have to say, Nicolas Lapierre has managed to get that gap between the 74 Audi and the 76 Porsche down to 10.5 seconds. That's a pretty impressive drive from the Frenchman. So there's a battle that's going to rage on with the remaining 4 or 5 hours and 49 minutes before checkered flag. So the BMW out of, let's call it for the sake of the argument, speaker's corner there, waiting to see where is the Bentley. The Bentley looks maybe as if it hasn't managed to handle these conditions with the same sort of degree of confidence that we're seeing from the BMW. Wouldn't be surprised if that gap actually extends beyond 9.6 seconds at the end of what will be lap 405.
Well, I think what we're seeing is in the wet part of the circuit, you're absolutely right, the middle sector, if you will. The first part of the circuit, the BMW loses ground, or more to the point, the Bentley gains ground on it on the run up the hill to Les Combes. But on the bit of the circuit where the rain fell last time around, that was where the BMW driver, Maxime Martin, took the time back. The 4 tenths he lost, he regained. And now this time around, not as much rain on this lap as there was that little flurry. Will Andy Soucek not lose so much time through the second sector of the circuit? But in fact he has. He's lost 2/10 of a second, not as bad as last time. He lost 4 tenths in that sector. So overall on this lap, Andy Soucek still taking another 10th or 2 out of the race leader.
Now, I just wonder, just speculate, because we're just watching the lead car and wanting to see where second place. Maxime Martin, you might as well said, was born at this racetrack. You know, full bells and whistles, you know, well, whatever. Knows it probably better than any driver here this weekend. And he might well have used that local knowledge and the way the rain was falling to give him the sense that there is actually more grip out there than maybe Andy Soucek in the Bentley would have imagined. So the gap is back up from 9.6 to 10.0. So that little bit maybe of local knowledge and trust, in a sense, in the tarmac and in the BMW allowed him to stretch again, whereas Andy Soucek, who obviously coming from sunny Spain, isn't quite so familiar with the racetrack or the intricacies and the subtleties of Spa-Francorchamps weather.
And also worth pointing out that almost Spa-Francorchamps royalty, Father Jean-Michel Martin, 2 victories here in Ford Caprice. It's 1979 and 80. Not everybody wants to listen to their father giving advice, but certainly some very good advice could have been proffered. But Maxime has been such a star for BMW over the past handful of years and really, really grown immeasurably. Alexander Sims, not sure whether to laugh or just take it on board, but sitting in a good position, the BMW crews.
Undoubtedly, Alexander's got loads and loads of cranberry juice with them, because that's the family business, as I found that out. This weekend they import or they manufacture lots of juices, but amongst them cranberry. I use cranberry juice myself every morning in conjunction with fresh squeezed orange.
But did you this morning, or is your attention going to wave? Are you going to flag? You haven't had your cranberry. Have you had some this morning?
I'm in withdrawal at the minute. Withdrawal.
Okay.
Let's get back, Bruce. 10.0 is the gap between first and second. There's a bit of traffic's going to slightly hold up the Bentley, and Andy Soucek not really looking to be overly aggressive on the Audi. Am I going to get through the number 4 Audi? Eventually, Pierre Caffer sort of said, oh, well, okay, come on, I'll give you the room, which is the right thing to do, because the number 4 Audi down in 12th place.
Yeah, 3 laps down.
So a little bit more rain again down at the exit of Paul Frere Coop. But I just, the more I talk myself into convincing myself that the reason the gap has opened up slightly is just simply because Maxime Martin knows this place so well, and he knows how much he can rely on the level of grip, in spite of there being that little bit of moisture in the air and a little bit of it also on the racetrack. So he's on his way onto his 406th lap, and now he's just out of sight. So the gap was 10 seconds, now 10.4. So BMW balance has shifted back towards the Belgian and the BMW.
Yeah, Andy Soucek slightly, not obstructed, but delayed somewhat by the number 4 Audi. But again, it's that middle sector of the circuit where he doesn't seem to have the bite that Maxime Martin is prepared to take with the BMW.
The other factor, of course, is Andy has been driving the wheels off the Bentley, and maybe he's just used the best of the tyres that went onto his car when he went out to do a stint. So, I mean, tyres don't last forever, I mean, they wear out. They're designed to wear out. That's the whole emphasis. And nobody really is going to take a punt other than in extreme circumstances on double stinting their tyres. So maybe Andy's just used the tyre, and what he's got left is what he's got left, and that's where also some of the time lost might be coming from.
Now we're looking at that battle between BMW leading the race and 10 or so seconds behind, and again taking chunks out in that climb up the Kemmel Straight. The Bentley closing in again, but the battle for Pro-Am honours between Patrick Pilet in the 76 Porsche and Nicolas Lapierre in the 74 Audi, down to 8.4 seconds. It's coming down, but a message on the screen. Team manager of Lapierre's car, number 44, to race control immediately.
74.
Did I say 84? I meant 74.
You said 44.
No, I've gone completely mad.
You've gone nuts, Pat. You've gone nuts.
We all know full well that's the Aston Martin.
David, you've gone nuts. Anyway, the gap is down, as you point out, to 8 odd seconds, or 8 seconds. They're not odd. Nothing odd about them. It might be even less this lap coming across the line. 7.5. And, I mean, you have to say Nicolas Lapierre, stunning job in the 74 Audi. Patrick Pilet, you know, just doing what he can do in the Porsche, and he's really almost defenceless to stop the tide of the Audi. I mean, King Canute couldn't stop the water at Bognor Regis, where I used to live. So it looks a bit like Patrick Pilet's in the same situation.
Again, we have to keep our eyes on the timing screen. Car number 28, does that sound familiar? Rene Rast up into 4th place. We just heard from Audi about the progress of that, but a black and white flag is to be shown to that and to the 38 crew, which is the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan, for disrespecting the track limit. So seconds gained and far more seconds lost, unfortunately, or will be lost by the 4th place car. Suitably just over 40 seconds clear of the 98 BMW. We could have a positional change.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of pushing the envelope. Everybody's going to, well, not everybody, but the pro drivers. Well, there we go. Some of the poor guys in the Bentley team, and the best they can do is lie in the gutter. Well, some people do that on holiday regularly, but that's not the case here. These guys are absolutely exhausted, having worked, you know, tirelessly for 4 days probably.
Do you think the next pit stop will wake him up?
I wouldn't guarantee it. You know, sleep deprivation, Bruce, is one of the worst tortures known to man or woman. And if you're tired, as these guys are, they just suddenly they just can do nothing but close their eyes.
What he probably knows is, barring a disaster and someone woke him up, the 7 and 8 Bentleys aren't due for a pit stop for some while. So he's snatching a quick power nap, we'll call it. 20 minutes down?
Whatever it takes. I mean, the 7 Bentleys still, regrettably for the Bentley Motorsport team, down in 28th position. As we look at 666. Where is 666? Is it dropped off the first page? It's at the top of the second page. Oliver Gavin behind the wheel.
Probably wondering why his car isn't yellow. So many years racing a Corvette in bright yellow colour for Corvette racing.
Well, their car currently 3rd in class. And just want to see where they are in relation to the first 2 in class.
1 lap down.
1 lap down, so yes. So
in the mix.
Oh, look, busy coming out of the final 2 corners. So Malcolm Wilson, what's up, Malcolm? He's got a problem, something going on.
Fans talking to Lee Negate about tactics, but tactics haven't all worked out yet. Now, they're going to have to wake up that mechanic, I reckon.
I don't think it's that. I think there's something Malcolm's face. You can look at it, and there's something going on that maybe they can identify from within.
That's even worse. That's even worse.
Is it 3 times, apparently? What's the name?
Well done.
Well done, kid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's track limits. Well, we knew they were under, not a warning, but they'd been reported for the number 8 car. But the first words we picked up, not from Malcolm, but chap alongside him, was "that's even worse." So maybe it's become something. Haven't got any messages up on the screen. We know that number 74 car has been given a warning. 28 in the Audi with Rene Rast on board. That has got a black and white flag to be shown to it. 38's had that. So we're waiting, and let's hope there's not another message, because Andy Soucek doing a great job in the number 8 Audi, chasing down the 99 BMW. We will have to wait and see.
Yeah, the second place car in the AM category, the 888 Ferrari, that's the Kessel Racing car. Team manager report immediately to race director. So what's gone on there, we don't know, but that's a car that's not directly.
Well, they've already had a warning.
Kessel Racing Ferrari. So
we've got tattered bodywork actually on the rear of that car. Second in class. Take a look. As the Bentley number with 02 on the windscreen, second overall, but second in the AM class is the 888 Ferrari. You can see the rear bodywork on the left of the car flapping around. Don't know how long it's been.
It's
like
a bit scruffy.
And again, in the first third of the lap, Andy Soucek in the number 8 Bentley takes good chunk of time out of the race, leading 99 BMW, 6/10 of a second gain, but now he'll be losing time in the traffic there. Got past the Kessel Racing Ferrari, down through Pouhon, another car in his path.
Sorry to be a party pooper.
Go on.
But another car, this time 29, Conrad Motorsport, disrespecting track limits, black and white flag. I mean, I tell you, I think racetracks should build concrete walls, and then there is no chance of you disrespecting track limits. Let's go back to old school racetracks where if you made a mistake, that was it all over. You know, when guys go to Pau in France, they go to Monte Carlo, they go to Macau, do they disrespect track limits? No. Do you know why? Because it hurts. Look at the rain falling now down at Stablo. That's heavier than it's been. And all of a sudden, look. This is a concern coming into Blanchimont.
Okay, and when you get to the bottom part of the track where it's slightly greasy, the BMW with Maxime Martin, there's the yellow and red slippery track warning flag. Maxime Martin has an advantage, and it's been a huge advantage, 1.1 seconds.
Wait and see. Is anybody going to dive into the pits? Too early yet to do it. I would expect to see teams getting there. Look at how difficult it was to get the track. He couldn't get the throttle open because he was getting wheel spin. The snatch at the rear of the Bentley. This is heavier rain than we've seen probably at any point in the last, what is it? Well, it's 19 hours almost, 18 and a half hours. So is this a full rain around the racetrack? Maxime Martin at the bottom of Eau Rouge, tippy-toeing up around. He knows it's tricky. You know, he got away with it when the rain was much more spasmodic and not quite with the intensity. Andy Soucek comes through a little bit quicker that time, I would have said, than the BMW. So the gap, as they came across the line at the end of lap 408, was 10.4 seconds. It's now Maxime Martin that was showing a little bit more caution. So rain not quite so severe as we come up to the top of Les Combes.
Okay, well, in that first sector of the lap, Maxime Martin way slower than before. It should be about 40.5 seconds running up the hill, 46 seconds and 44 seconds for Soucek in the Bentley giving chase. It's far wetter than we realise here in the commentary box.
It's much wetter down at the bottom of the circuit. You know, coming down into Bruxelles, it is raining, but it's the bottom of the circuit. There we see the wet tyres for the BMW team in the event. I mean, the track is not what I would consider, it's not wet. All it is, Soucek, interestingly, took the long way around the speaker's corner because he thinks that if you go wide on a corner, actually there's more grip. Again, look at him down at Pouhon. He's not taking the racing line on the entry, he's taking the long way around, which is what racing drivers do when racetracks get wet. Well, they use their track experience, and that's what we're saying. We can't see rain, there's no spray coming off, we're not even seeing really, we're just beginning to see a wisp of water coming from the back of the Bentley as it came into Fagnes.
But what we're seeing is their times around the circuit, they're going to be about 8 to 10 seconds a lap slower, but the third place Audi has come in to make a pit stop, presumably to get straight onto those rain tyres, not losing the time that the others will, but the wet rain tyres are at the ready at Bentley. Will they be at BMW? Water drops on the lens, there they are, sitting on. I don't want to see rooster tails, but I want to see wheel tracks on the racetrack. That then indicates to me it's probably too risky, but look at the rain that's following down at Blanchimont, and that is becoming an issue. So we may well see, and look, race fans around the racetrack, they realise this is not just a little tinkle. I don't know whether I would stop on this lap or whether I'd roll the dice and go one more, because with the speed the rain has come in, it can go out at the same speed. Is Bentley going to come in, or are they going to roll the dice? They're coming. No. Well, I'll tell you what, the body language of the Bentley mechanics, they seem to push the tyres a little bit further back, and the gap has definitely come down. So a brave end to the lap there from Maxime Martin. It was 10.5 seconds, 7.8 seconds. It's coming down, but the important thing is going to be the times that we see from the number 6 Audi when it rejoins, but also how long is this rain going to last for? Every shower we've had so far has been gone in 5 minutes.
I mean, you can see just how little traction Soucek has coming off La Source down into Eau Rouge, and we're now beginning to see the effect. And look at this, you can see the wheel tracks there. You can see now it's at the limit for slick tyres. The roll the dice is all about how long will this rain continue? They've all got meteorologists with their teams. They're all looking skyward, and there'll be some wise old sage sitting up on the hill somewhere saying, no, the rain will not last.
Now, here what we want to see is the number 6 Audi. It's on rain tyres. It's come out just behind the race. We think it's on wets. We've got to get verification, but it came in just as the rain was coming down. Of course, you can't see at speed if it's... Well, looking at the rear shot, yes, they're on wet tyres. Now, that should be able to power its way past the race-leading BMW. It's a lap down, don't forget, but it gives a chance, as Audi 6 is on wets for Phoenix, to see just how much of a time advantage you can gain on the rain tyres. But again, how long will the rain last?
That's the key. That's the issue that I can't answer. The teams can second guess at. There is the Audi on those wet weather tyres. Now, clearly, the lap times have dropped from 2:20s to 2:45s for the Bentley, 2:48 for the BMW. What will be the lap time of Christopher Meach when he comes across the line on his first lap, flying lap on those wet tyres? So...
Well, there's the part. There's the clear visual. The Audi was behind the BMW, came out on wet tyres. He's got past still. So what's the lap time going to be? This isn't a flying lap. This is his out lap. Bentley in number 8.
There's a number 7 in.
7 in.
So
sorry,
the 7's in. It's in for its service. Now, where we are now, are you going to stay out on those dry slicks, or having seen what the potential is of the wet set of tyres? The question still is. There are bits of the track which clearly are much, much wetter than other bits, and if you put on a set of dry weather tyres, you will just destroy them on the bits that are not fully wet. So the BMW team have got them in the garage. Maxime Martin